Hello, testing 1 2 1 2. Can you hear the audio a-okay?
Nope.
Oh. Well, it should be coming through okay on stream anyway. So, we'll switch on over and get started. Do do do. And cut. Right, hello, welcome to the second GM training event. So, this one's just going to be focused on creating custom content, and we're probably going to have a smaller turnout for this and a shorter event in general. But feel free, if you're watching, to drop on in at any time, and we'll help out as we go along. So, let's go ahead and just jump over to the training room as beforehand. So I'm just going to go ahead and fly on over there, and you can jump to me when ready. Or you should be able to jump on Chris right now as it stands, if you just search for your menu. Thank you for the follow, Gov of Love.
Oh, he's in the ceiling.
Oh, he's in the ceiling.
Raid.
There we go. Cool. Right, let's make sure the background audio is on too.
Where's all the gold? Smickles.
And we'll just add a bit of a background loop here.
We found the gold. Gimme, gimme.
Lovely, that should be playing. Right. So we'll just head on in now. Okay, so much like last session, what I'm going to need you to do is just go ahead and choose a table for yourself. Obviously, we only have a couple of you, so just pick freely. You'll see there's a join table button next to the insert skybox image, so if you could just click on that for me.
Wait, how do you know you joined?
It will be under the inspector, so as long as you've pressed it, it will absolutely have joined you to it. I'll double check just to make sure for you, though.
I was just curious.
Yeah, we are going to add a list to it in the future so you can see individually who's on there. But yeah, for example, you're under there.
The root.
Yep, lovely. Perfect. Okay, so we've got Firefly and got from the back on a table. Okay, so custom content. Let's talk about that for a second. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you what, I'll just join this table here. What we have with custom content is, obviously, it being Neos, you can put in anything you have made, any creation, anything at all, essentially. You can tweak it as much as you want, and then using a tile creator, which is here, you can set up the tile type. So right now, we just have a GM training tile type on here, but these will work with the main table as well. It's just so they're made sure to work with these too on the fly. So most importantly, using these is really easy. So I know both of you already have your custom content that you want to bring in and show on off. So why don't you go ahead and spawn those on in, and we'll take a look real quick.
Don't worry, I'll do the light one.
Yep. Right, and we'll up the light on your table a little bit, Firefly. There you go. So Firefly, why don't you go ahead and walk us through these assets you've actually created or found and brought on into Neos, at what the purpose of them is.
Well, we need all these. We're trying to go with a very broad cyberpunk, post-hoc, alien theme. Gives me a broad range of things to make. So I've got a few excellent designs I'm going with. A few if the material code, a few more post-hoc variants, broken vehicles, roads, buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Like a valley, or add a bit of environment height
That's cool. Yeah, so it's essentially it's a large post-apocalyptic pack, so completely different from the standard fantasy tile sets that we're obviously going with initially. So that's really cool to see.
Yeah, this is in the post-hoc theme, so just got to have a legitimate reason not to be all using guns.
Yeah, that's awesome. Right, and from the back, so you brought in your own model, I believe. Am I correct?
So yes, this is a photogrammetry. So you take multiple pictures of it. Currently, I'm very new to it, but this is my own tabletop model that I have. And as you can see, I got most of it in.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's so cool. Hi, Josh. Welcome to streaming. As you can see with photogrammetry, as from the back just to explain, you can essentially bring in your own models. So if you, of course, have your own tabletop collection at home for whether it's 40k, Standard Warhammer, or D&D Pathfinder models, or you make your own models, you can go ahead and use photogrammetry on any phone to scan and bring in those models into Neos on the fly, which is really awesome. It will take a little bit of work to optimize them more so, but it's still really cool that you can bring in your own models, just scanned from photo scans. So I've seen before there's been some really, really high quality work where you can't even tell it's been scanned on in. Eventually, it's just so real looking. But yeah, this is awesome. So let's go ahead and walk you through how to actually put these tiles in and get them working with the table. So, first of all, I'll give Firefly a moment.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
So it's like, so you can be in like multiple.
Yeah, it's just walking through Loic on the on Neos. He's new to Neos. So, also, hi Weiss. What?
Put that on my table.
Oh.
Right. So, which table do you want? This one?
This far one.
Okay, so actually setting this up as a tile should be really easy. I'll walk Firefly through it again in a moment. So all you need to do is just grab that tile, or what you want to be the tile. Yep, now just drop it down onto here. Okay, so now what you got to do is click Begin Tile Construction, and you'll see a large laser come shooting on down. And that should, if you take a look under here, you have test2.fpx. So what we're going to do actually is shrink this down just a little bit so we can actually see the tile creator here. Now we have our X, Y, and Z values for our position, rotation, and scale here on the right. So the important thing is, first of all, making sure we've got it all zeroed in to the initial position, which is where this debug cube is, which is turned on by just turning on debug mode and visual indicator. So if you just hit the reset buttons, it should bring it into the center for you just fine. Unless your pivot point isn't right on the model, which is potentially the case with a scan. We will see.
Yep. Let's see.
Okay, and if you reset rotation, yeah, so that's not zeroed in correctly. So what you're going to want to do here, what I would recommend is for your position, getting the rotation right by, in VR, of course, you can just grab with your laser and, well, you would be able to click if a pivot point was correct. But in this case, you just want to turn over the object, obviously. And then using the position here, you can get it to zero in exactly onto the center by adding in some modifications to the X, Y, and Z values. Or you can skip past that and you can just position it by hand onto here and skip the entire process there. It won't snap correctly for one-to-one grid measurements with things such as tiles. So if you're making walls and they don't work like this, then you're going to want to be very careful. But for things like models, then it's not as much as a worry. So if you just position this correctly.
Just do that way, and then I hit apply, I assume?
Yep, just hit complete. If you hit apply there, that will apply the XYZ of this section. All you need to do, once you've got that in position, is you can go ahead and just rename the tile here in the center. So if you just click on that. Yep, and then you can just type in a name and it will change it.
Let's see. We just put fire model.
Fire model. Yep. Okay. So now that you got that named, what's probably most important is to make sure the snap size is set correctly. So this doesn't matter too much right now, but in the back end of what happens is your tile will just get added under a hierarchy, and it will be sorted. So in the future, when there's a search system, you can search for 3x3 or monster and so on, and it will find that tile type for you. So once you've got hundreds of assets, you can obviously imagine it's going to be really easy to find things if it's all named correctly and sorted correctly. So to change your snap size, all you got to do is mess around with these quick little buttons at the side for the minus and the plus on snap size. So this is probably a 3x3, it looks like.
That'd be big enough.
Or a 4x4. Yep, sure. Okay, so now that you've got that set, all you should have to do is hit complete tile, and we'll see if we run into a common issue with this. No, so that has just flashed, and yeah, it's a snappable, sorted. So if the object actually just pulses a orange color, then it is made as a snappable, and you have nothing to worry about. There are some cases where the object won't work correctly, but those are rare, and it's usually to do with the hierarchy. So if you spawn in a thing like a primitive box and you try to make that into a tile, it does need to be parented and have an object parent for it to select, which you can set up within the NEOS inspector. So yeah, that's essentially set up as a tile.
I can save this model and it'll snap automatically.
Yep. The one key consideration though is, so this model, now that it's made into a tile, will only spawn in worlds that have the DelVR table. So essentially in our world. So in the future, when we have content ID, that's not going to be an issue at all. You can just spawn in the table and it will work. But right now, I'd recommend getting your model sorted either outside of the DelVR sessions, or if you perchance have builders, such as what I'm going to be giving to you anyways for this particular session, just so it's much easier to create on the fly in here. You can do things such as adding components to the tiles for wobbling, make them spin, making them move up and down and so on, so you can animate them a little bit. Your standard stuff. Hey there, Ardies. Welcome.
Sorry for I'm a bit late. I was just coming from work, bit eating, and I needed to go to another world for greetings.
No worries at all. No worries at all. You here to make custom tiles then? Do you have any on hand that you'd like to potentially import, or you need a hand with
All
that?
my custom tiles are at Fireflies.
So you're doing them with Firefly. Fair enough.
Maybe I find some things over here.
Teamwork.
Yeah.
This one.
Awesome. And I'm going to ask for chat's sake here, and for my own safety. Do we have a mouse cursor on the screen, chat? Could you just let me know?
Just about there.
There, right there. Nah, I'm good. Thank you. Okay, awesome. Right, so now that we're good with that, then if you're both going to be working on that set, that is fantastic. Otherwise, from the back, yeah, that will just work as it is right now as a tile. So you can save that to your inventory. It will save into your potions as well. So if you make a potion, it will automatically pack up. So I'll just do that quickly right now. Oh, actually, sorry, there was no layer selected there. So let me select a layer for you on that. There you go.
What was that testing? Oh.
If you want to snap it back down.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you come over here and you just hit pack table, it's because I'm not assigned to your table.
Pack table?
Yep. There you go. And then just unpack again. If you want, just to see if it saves in the same place. Yep, that's fine. So it just works. In the future, what we're going to let you do is, up here, we've got the tile type. So within here, we actually store templates for different types of tiles for selection. So we're going to have, obviously we have the GM training tile for this room, but we're going to have a monster token tile type as well. So all you do is you hit the plus on here to switch to that type. And all you'll need to do is line it up as before. You'll have your little template box. And you just need to hit complete tile, and you'll automatically get the user interface for the token put up above it as well. So it will just work straight away, set up with our user interface for monsters and tokens in general.
Okay.
So you'll be sorted there.
Very simple, yes.
Yeah, really easy. It's made to be super easy. The more advanced stuff really is setting things up for larger packs and making sure that things snap together correctly, which you do by just iterating constantly. So, for example, you could do scaffolding first, then you do the platforms, you make sure they line up with the scaffolding. It's already snappable. So I'll walk you through that in a moment anyways. But let's go on and head over to Firefly's table and Ardies as well to take a look at the post-apocalyptic pack. And I'll just join your table too. There we go.
We
Right,
need to
so
add
these are
into-
all put together on a plane, it looks like. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the usual case, what I'd recommend doing, it would be outside of the DelVR world, but for now I'll just promote you in here so we can run through it really quick. Here we go. So what you need to do is, if you just spawn yourself a developer tooltip, which I'm sure you know how to do, it's pretty basic NEOS knowledge, but tooltips can be found within the NEOS tools folder. I'll have to excuse my my messy inventory here on stream. Not that you can see it, actually. One moment. There we go. The NEOS tools folder, or the essential tools folder, and then just this orange one here is the dev tooltip, and you can spawn that. And what you can do, once equipping it onto your finger, so you just pull that in, you can then aim and hit the secondary action button, followed by your submenu button, to then open up a wheel, and you can open an inspector, which will give you a interface that shows everything that's part of this. So it's much like a Unity editor, if anyone's used to that. So within here, I can see that, yeah, you've got everything dropped under the object. So that's absolutely fine. We'll see if these work okay. Fingers crossed they do, because they don't have any parents outside of the main one here. But all you want to do is make sure, yeah, you've got a mesh collider on them all. That's perfect. You're just going to want to add grabable to them all. So in order to cheat that a little bit, we're actually going to use a grabable tip. So we can just go around and click over them all to add the grabable component to them. Yep. And then we should be able to just pull them off and put them into the system fine. Because it will pick up a object route rather than the main object itself. So it shouldn't, hopefully, pick up your entire plane here when you do that. Okay, you'll also want to turn off the grabable component on the plane itself, like the main large plane.
Yeah, that's probably not bad.
Okay, so yeah, that's assigning it to all of them, actually. That's a very good point. So here, this is probably going to be a bit of a long process, but you'll want to add grabable to each of these, or you could just parent them underworld instead, and then you could obviously add grabable to them individually. So the thing they can't be is in this large plane here. What I'll show you is the setup that I've actually got for the set that I've made, as they're all parented to spawn in easily. So let's see here, as I bring in... let's bring in some of the bridges from that tile set. So all of these spawn in separately, and they're all part of one object, and that parent doesn't have grabable on it, but all the individual objects do. So I can just pull these out and drop them onto here and select them individually, and they'll just work fine. So hopefully that'll work with us. So all we've got to do is parent them all underworld. So let's go ahead and select, let's go with cylinder 11 first. So with this one selected, all we've got to do is open up a separate inspector on that. Yep, now that we've got this, we're going to want to just click parent under world root here. Okay, so now that's out of this folder. So what we can do is we can go ahead and add a grabable component to it. So you can either do that using the grabber tooltip, and it should just apply to that now as there's no root to that object, or you can do it through the NEOS component menu.
Trying to work out which one it's selected, damn it.
The one that's selected is the one that will have the gizmo on, which is...
It should be that one.
Oh, I think Chris is best.
Yep, that's the one. So now that you've got that selected there, all you need to do, this one. Oh, is that still attached underneath? One moment. Where is that? We haven't got it highlighted. Let me just disable it for a moment. I tell you what, we'll cheat a little bit and we'll actually scale it up. Or it could be that one doesn't actually have a mesh to it, in which case that would explain that problem. Well, we'll come back to that in a moment. It's cylinder 011, but I don't think it has a mesh anywhere. Let me bring it to me. Yeah, there's no mesh on it, I don't think. Oh, no.
Oh,
Here we go.
it's that one plant.
Right, so that just needs grabbable assigned to it.
Yep.
So anything you bring into Neos by default will start with the grabbable component on there. Obviously, if you're bringing an entire plane full of different objects, then that won't be the case. What I'd instead recommend is sorting out a folder on your computer and actually having all the models in separately in there. And what you can do, so for example, with my models over here, for all these bridges, what I did was they're all separate FBX files, and I've just control clicked on each one, or you can of course drag down, and you just drag in those FBX files en masse into the Neos window.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then you can just click import, and it will do all of them as a batch process and stack them all out in a nice position for you. And then you can just set a parent to one and put them all underneath, and then save to your inventory. Not that you need to worry that much about doing that unless you're going to be taking it into another world, because you can just make them as tiles on the fly in here.
No, okay, yep.
Yep. Okay, so Chris has separated out some of these for you. So we'll go ahead and see if these work fine first. So if you just want to go ahead and grab one.
Oh, I need to smooth that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. If you just choose one of those tiles for yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, yep. And if you just bring it over to here. Okay, so now if you just hit begin tile construction, as I was showing Firefly earlier, it should just shoot on down. Perfect. So next, let's see, yep, post-apocalyptic assets.object. Let's reset the position of this. So if we just go off the right here, the usual working order is just to reset across all the 3 axes. So what's happening here then? Yeah, that's still attached to that as a parent, interestingly enough. So we're going to undo that. So if you just...
Yeah.
Oh, actually, it won't move that underneath because it's not set as undoable.
You can't.
That's fine. We'll move it back over. Yeah, this is more a case of... the issue being there's a correct workflow for it, so it's better to have separated assets and them all on one thing. Even though it might be counterproductive, you'd think it's generally better to have them separated. But what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and open up an inspector on this cube here. And
so what I'm actually going to do
Yep.
while you're explaining is I'm going to move all of them out from underneath the main object for you, so then it's easier.
Thank you.
Okay.
Lovely. So
Oh, I
we're going to
did do
parent
that.
this under the walled root. And once it's under the walled root, one moment, sorry. Let me just reselect it again. I may have just selected you. Could you
select it?
There we go. So now that it's under the walled root, all we need to do is double check it is grabbable, which is lovely. We can see the pivot point's not exactly where we want on this either though, so we're going to have to create a custom pivot point. So it may in fact be best for these models to generally go back into Blender and to export each one separately.
Yeah.
But just for the case of showing you how to fix that within Neos, if you do want to, if you've got 1 or 2 with broken pivot points, what I tend to do is I will, sorry, let me just open up an inspector on it again. Oh, oh, that's you. Okay. So, what I'm going to do, obviously, first step, underwalled root. Second step, check if you can create a pivot point at the center and see where that ends up. So that pivot point is ideal, I think, actually. Yep. So now that the pivot point's in the center, we do not want the grabbable component on the child, which is now this cube, because we've just made a pivot point. So we'll just disable this here, or we can just delete the component, and we'll go up to this pivot, which you can see is now perfectly aligned in the center. Lovely. So we're going to go ahead and attach a component to it. Transform, interaction, we're adding grabbable to it. And now we can see we can grab this as a whole. And now that this is done, I'm going to duplicate it just in case it doesn't. But it should just get selected underneath this now if we repeat the process.
But it still says post-apocalypse.
Yeah, he needs to reselect. There we go.
Okay.
So that selected that there. And if you just click reset position and rotation, it may not move into the correct place still with that pivot point. We'll see.
It's all been moved.
Okay, lovely.
Where is it now? Oh, there.
It has separated itself out. Let's just check something real quick. I see what's happened here. This is why I wanted to duplicate a spare one out. That's because it's actually selecting the mesh collider from the child layer. So what we need to do is actually move that mesh onto, or the mesh collider onto the pivot that we just made.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do real quick is just get rid of my bridges here. As you can see, they're all just nicely put under a parent. There we go. So the duplicate that I made, which is this one, I believe.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the one. Lovely. So we're just going to delete this. Destroy selected. Lovely. And what we're going to do is add the mesh collider component to this one and remove it from this one. So let's just get rid of the mesh collider here. And let's add it to this one. So the mesh collider can be found within physics and then colliders. And then you'll see you've got your different types of colliders. If you want to do optimized collisions, then you can actually add a box collider and set from local bounds, but it won't have all the separate indents and so on here. In the future, what we're actually going to be doing with the tile creator is having it make as an option. Oh, someone just delete that. Chris?
No, it wasn't me.
Oh. That's just
No, not
disappeared.
my stuff. Wasn't me.
Okay. Okay. Not to worry, we'll go over it again. Why not? So.
Oh, it's parented.
Yeah, that is that the one?
No, this is the one I was working on. I might have you might have taken the one that I duplicated.
Ah.
As I undone.
That's probably what it is. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Right. Let's go over it again. Lovely.
So you don't actually have to add the component anymore because where I separated them, they work by default now.
Lovely.
You can just go around and ping them.
Yeah, we're still going to need to add the Damn it, Chris. So, grabable is on here. What we don't want it on is this itself because it's got a screwed pivot point. So, again, we're going to create a pivot at the center. And we're just going to go ahead and reselect this as well. So we're not on the root anymore. And we're going to go to that object root, which is the pivot point we've created. So, we've got this pivot point. Then, we're going to go ahead and add to the new pivot point, which is now centralized, the grab component, which will solve that problem. We're going to remove it off of this one, which has the incorrect grab component, being this is the center of the object. And we're going to remove the mesh collider too. So we're going to add the mesh collider to this pivot pointed parent in the hierarchy with the correct orientation here. And we are going to add a mesh collider through physics, colliders, mesh collider. So now that we have this, we can see here that the mesh is actually null underneath. Yep. So what we want to do, we'll just pull out this inspector here by grabbing and clicking the trigger. And we can pull the mesh out of this mesh render straight into here. And now we have our collider set up correctly. So now that we've got the collider set up correctly, now that's quite a complicated process as well. So I want to say if you do instead separate them individually through Blender, you're not going to have that issue. It'll automatically be done for you. This is just if you want to do one manually. It would help if I turned grabable on the actual object itself.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Give me a moment.
Where it is again?
Yep. Chris, what table are you parented to? Sorry.
No, I used the table that this was already under.
Oh, okay, so it's going to be one of these. Lovely. So, we've got a ton of them on here. Lovely. Oh dear. Right, yeah. So already you're probably starting to realise how much of an issue it can be when you have it all under one plane. Let's see here. We just need to find the one with the pivot point for you. Which,
Wait, 1 second.
Oh, did you see pivot?
No, I just wanted to make a new window for better seeing it.
Ah, yeah. Well, we'll just search on through that in this case. So again, our goal really is not to have you... It's under the root? Okay, that explains why we couldn't find it. Lovely. Again, yeah, so if everything's done correctly, you shouldn't have to touch inspectors at the slightest, which is our goal here. Because we understand this is confusing. This is essentially NEOS base level engine components, so...
Don't worry, I will test too, and it will be mostly success.
Yes.
Yeah, adding a mesh collider doesn't actually make it grabbable. You have to actually add a box collider.
Yep. So in this case, we're just going to add a...
Mac, if you want to come here, I'll show you when you want to add a grabbable component to it. So obviously you want to go to physics and then collider. So to make a grabbable component actually work,
You add the
it
component,
doesn't work
yeah.
on a mesh collider.
Made a
You have to use either a box collider,
grabbable Medra, or snappable Medra.
or,
Lovely.
you know, sphere or something like that.
Yeah.
And then easiest way to set it up for this object, just click local bounds and it will set the collider exactly to the bounds of the object.
Yeah.
And now you can use this to make a snap.
Oh, we have someone else in the world here. Jaden.
Yeah, so this is actually my tabletop model, and I did photogrammetry.
Oh, that's really
So,
nice.
Yeah, we
I'm
should
very
be
new
fine
to it,
to,
so it's kind of
do
sloppy
it
at the
now.
moment.
Yep.
But
is
I'll
it-
improve that.
So if you grab...
Yeah, this is
Yep, there you go. Now if you hit begin tile construction... What we've essentially done is just set up an object from scratch in NEOS here, so not the ideal way.
Sorry.
Yep, so it's
No
hit the
worries,
right
no
thing.
worries at all.
Sorry.
It's hit the right thing, so we're in the clear.
Mm-hmm.
Is it okay to reset position?
Yep.
Yep.
There you go. And the rotation. Lovely. So let's reset the scale down to 1.0 as well.
The scale will not work.
Oh, right, yeah, because it's a separate object.
So the reason why the scale won't work, I was
Where
at
is
the
it?
moment,
It's right
So-
over here.
Behind you.
for example,
Oh,
so
sorry.
the reason why that happened was because, let me show you. So if I bring in an object real quick by a normal import,
High tech.
you notice this is a lone object. So if we inspect this, you'll notice that it has a root node. That needs to be on the object.
Yep.
No matter what.
Okay.
Otherwise, it won't scale. So, where you've imported them like this, it's fine, but you won't be able to use the scale function. You have to scale them with your hands.
Yeah. Okay.
That's why it's always better to bring them in like this. Because if I show you now, if I make one out of this real quick.
Sorry, yeah, that's the giant. Oh, no, I didn't do that.
Where's the indicator laser?
Oh,
Ooh,
that's
what
a
are you
follow.
hitting?
Lovely, thank you for the follow, Tuck. Lucky turkey.
Let's do it,
No worries,
on
mate.
this one. Let's do it on this one.
This guy's
Oops.
a magician.
This one works. Here we go. Just gonna. This is shoot. Alright, so let's go again. So we will begin construction and then reset position, rotation. Now if I inspect this, now you'll notice that the root is 111. Now if we bring this down, you'll notice that that will change. So that's the thing that actually scales it.
Yeah.
So if you don't have an object, it won't scale. And then you just
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
and
I've
it will
got
work.
lots of exporting to do.
Yes. But it's okay. I mean, perhaps we should have mentioned beforehand, actually, with a quick disclaimer for the export style and so on. But
Oh, it's okay.
Lesson learned there. When we cover a tutorial, Chris is going to be handling it since it's essentially the whole system is his creation here. I just did some of the UI for it. He's probably going to go over what will actually work and what the best formats and so on are, and it will be a longer tutorial because it's unavoidable for this. So that will be a good reference point for that as well. But yeah, so obviously that tile didn't work because scaling doesn't work on it, and when you complete it sometimes you have to separate it on out from the tile creator. So in the case of this individually, it would probably be best to just separate out the models to avoid further trouble with it, which is a shame. But if you'd like to have an attempt at setting them up manually as well, you could. Whichever you think is faster. If you want to have a go at separating out one or two in Blender real quick, you can try that. Or
yeah, the Blender.
Okay, sure. Yep, I do the same. Lovely. Okay, right then. So.
Bless you.
If I can get it.
Ah, thank you. Oh god. Okay, go again. Gotta fix this tile.
So, what we're going to do then, Freya, is I'm going to teach you how to make your tiles now, because you helped me set up these things earlier anyway to speed through it. We could even make your Christmas tree into a tile if you want.
True though. I haven't saved it though.
You want that? Okay, okay. Let's go grab your Christmas tree real quick, shall we? I'll respawn myself.
Game?
Whoa, whoa, that's a rock. Lovely. Okay, right. So. Let's just go ahead and grab our tree here. I mean, you could just import it again if you want, but it's easier to do this.
It's easier. Like,
yeah. Right, duplicate this once. That will give us a new Christmas tree here. Lovely. We'll make this one grabbable. We'll get rid of the D20 off the top. And we'll get rid of the bathtub too, which is totally a pot. I don't know what I just said. Absolutely a pot.
Bathtub.
It would help if I made it grabbable.
Oh, hello.
Oh, I did.
What?
There we go. It's because it was attached inside of there. Right, okay, so shrink that down, save it to your inventory. You're good to go, and just spawn it on in over there, and delete it once you've saved it. And let's go ahead and travel on back.
Now, when you're making tiles that actually... I mean, we can scale them.
Yeah.
But when you have hands, it's a lot easier.
Yeah, I know.
So obviously, when you're making like actual tiles that snap together.
Ah, hey there,
you want
Jaden.
that
Welcome.
root node, so then you can have like.
We're just running through a GameMaster training event. So, are you aware of the DelVR system at all?
This is like the second time I've been here.
Like
so,
into this world or NEOS in general?
into this world. Yeah.
Okay, right. So. What we're essentially running right now is a training event which teaches people who want to be game masters for the system, so running Dungeons and Dragons and making their own maps and so on within here, or people who just want to understand the system a little bit better and what we've got going on with it, how to use it in general. So that includes making maps out of it, and this particular session's focused on making your own custom content, so bringing in your own models and setting them up as snappable so you can build with them. But I'll give you a full showcase of the table and so on if you like in a moment.
Oh, don't worry about it.
So the snap size, sorry,
a DM or anything, so...
Okay, that's fine. Not to worry. Then in that case, so Freya, spawn in that tree.
D&D, then the name of the tile.
You've already spawned it in. You've already got it there. You're 2 steps ahead. Right, so now we just want to hit begin tile construction, or have you beat me to it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, and have you assigned yourself to this table?
We haven't got a root node. We can actually...
Oh, what?
Right, so to assign yourself to the table, just come over here and click join table, and that'll put you under it.
Or what we can do is you can get the
There you go. Lovely. Okay, so
and you can actually put it in there.
Now,
Just plan
it's already
scale, and
centralized.
then
Did
if
you
we
centralize it yourself?
Bring it down to
Yeah.
like
Okay.
we need to go any smaller.
As in by hand?
I think maybe like a no
Yeah.
no no.
What the hell? How?
Go back.
Jeez. Okay.
Point
Right.
0.
Well, just in case it's slightly off,
There we
let's
go.
reset that position and rotation using the buttons on the side instead.
So it doesn't really look like it moved at all, but we'll reset the position and then.
Okay, so you
This
did
is
it
what
better
turns on
anyway
the
because your
frame
pivot point is
okay.
slightly off. So let's
Yeah.
just move it down on the y-axis a little bit here. So we just type on in minus 0.02, for example, and go with
Yeah,
minute
so
details, and you can see how much it
When it
moves up
comes
and down.
to this, it's not really like issue. It's more or less specification for the system, like the tile creator. But like before we had this, just imagine we had to do this all by hand.
Okay, now just click apply
like,
position.
We had like, do you know? Have you seen?
Okay,
like,
so
all
that's
tile
probably going to be
systems that we have?
0.1 maybe as a whole.
Mhm.
So we've
Or
got
is it-
a big city tile set, which is like full of like building pieces and stuff like that. That's what we made before we had this.
A little bit up,
And that's, like,
0.8
almost
maybe?
over 500 pieces.
Or 0.08 I
Yeah,
should say.
it's a lot.
Going for the
So
perfectionist.
Yes.
what I'm gonna do.
Well, I mean, I guess it can go underneath the table a little bit, but the issue is,
Yeah,
if you do
underneath.
that, and for example, you made a garden on the second floor of a building, then what's going to happen on that first floor is you're going to look up at the ceiling and you're going to see
So
the bottom of a tree
that's
poking
about
on out.
Fine, I guess.
It's a
And we'll just-
feature.
It's a feature. So there we go. That'll do. That's lovely. So now that that's done, let's go ahead and change the scale a bit. Or are you happy with this tree size?
I think I'm happy
No,
with this tree
It's not
size, huh?
perfect.
It's
Okay.
pretty thick, I like it.
It's a good tree. So
It does the
the
job.
collider's already set up on this, I believe. So what you're just going to want to do is set up your snap
Yeah.
size. That's probably a 3x3, maybe a 2x2.
Obviously, you wanna re-import all of the stuff to have the root node.
There you
but-
go.
Which is a
And
lot of
just
work to do
click
right
complete
now,
tile.
but we don't have to do. But
Complete tile.
yeah, it's
Okay, you've done that. Let's see.
so yeah.
Now
It's just,
we have an issue with the
thought I'd
tile.
show you, so you know, like.
Wait, you did hit complete tile, yep.
I did.
So the
Just in
debug
case.
mode
Click it
is
again.
Okay,
the
yep,
box,
yep.
Oh,
Cool. So what's happened here
And then
is because you don't have a object root
yeah. So
for the
yeah,
main
it
object
goes all
itself.
the way up
You
to
still have the
6 by 6.
grabbable component on the actual mesh here, right? All that's got to happen is that's got to be turned off,
Yeah, pretty much.
and it works.
And then obviously the visual
Oh,
indicator.
Yeah.
Is,
It's a really weird issue.
If
Sometimes it
it's
can
really
happen on
weird,
the odd
that's what's
tile.
taking the snaps.
There's like a variety of things that can cause it, but the easiest fix is just either getting rid of the grabbable component while you're making it or before it's made, or alternatively, what you can do is just take the grabber tooltip out and you can point on in on the mesh and just then turn it off from there, because you don't want to select the cube that you've got, which is this point here. You want to make sure you get the actual mesh that has it on, but that will solve the problem for you. So yeah, now you've got that tree. That tree can be saved, it can be snapped, it can work like a tree. It's actually quite a nice tree.
Work like a
Yeah,
tree.
pretty much.
Good Christmas tree. Lovely. So, right, now that we've done that there, Chris is walking through some more advanced stuff, I think. What we'll do is, if you'd be interested, we can go and work on these scaffolding-based tiles that we have, and I could show you how I'd build out an actual tile set.
Yeah,
So,
it's-
having scaffolding and pieces going up, having them connect and snap together perfectly, and the best way to make sure that they all do, if you'd be interested in that.
Yeah, we're here.
Yep. Lovely. So, in that case, let's go ahead and spawn these on out.
So obviously, where you've made the pivot,
So,
for
first
this,
thing
and
to
it goes
start
halfway
with
down, the best bet
is
is
the scaffolding here.
to.
So, as we can
I
see,
might be wrong
we've got
here,
our scaffolding pieces.
what I normally do, just point
So,
at it,
the best piece to probably
we
start
want
with
0
out of
to 5.
these would be one of the square ones that's already a ton of beams with a platform on top.
we want an extra bit
So,
on it.
if you just select one of those
Who are
each.
we going to hang?
Point 1. There we go.
Who are
Point
we
1 should be
hanging?
fine. Okay,
Who
there
are we
go.
hanging
So
indeed?
you want to go up a point
Maybe,
1, if it goes halfway. That's what I grabbed earlier.
I don't know. I don't want to say. I don't want to hang anyone. Don't want to do that.
Let's
No,
hang
it's
the
bad.
toast.
Bad. Yeah, let's hang Medra's
The
toast.
toast.
Perfect. There we go.
Obviously, if
Like a
halfway
spawn
point,
man.
Poor toast.
just point 1 it.
Could always
You wouldn't
respawn.
mind.
You'll set it exactly.
So, let's
So a thing to keep in mind.
go
which,
ahead and individually. So Freya
obviously,
from the
it's
back, why don't we do a
underneath
couple of
the
separate
actual grid
ones?
itself.
You want to take this one?
So
And
it's
Freya,
also
you want
as
to take this
well
one here?
as the grid itself isn't exactly
That's
where
what
the
I
floor bit
Yep.
is on this grid.
want you to.
So, for example, this tile here.
Yep,
it
pull
goes
that on back.
underneath, like, the
Okay,
tiniest bit,
so if you
but
go
it's
ahead
on
and
a
you just
table.
try to make those into tiles, and let's walk
You'll
through it.
notice that it
So same
doesn't-
process
it
as
only
before.
just sits on the top, but it's not perfect. So if you want it so it's actually in the ground, you're gonna want to have it like a little bit lower. Yeah. So just as long as you don't.
So if you
scale it,
click
you're fine.
reset on that one, Freya, it will reset it to 0 anyways when you click the button. It'll always be 0.
Is it position, you mean?
Yeah, yep. I mean, I
Hmm.
think you've pretty much got it set anyways.
Doesn't have a
These
roof.
these are set to be mathematically correct, so that they're made for grid snapping already. So that they will just work perfectly. They're measured out, or they should do, hopefully. Or I've been lied to by this
No.
pack.
You've been lied to.
I've been lied to.
Does it?
Even if
How
you
dare
wanted
it,
to
how
have
dare it.
things, like,
So,
in the
what we're
bottom,
gonna
it's
do then-
fine, 'cause your players won't really see it.
Does-
So
Is we're going to go
Yeah.
ahead and pull on out some grabber tooltips. Let's go ahead and get these.
he's tiny up there.
There we go. So, using the grabber tooltip, all we got to do is move on in onto the actual the tile itself.
Oh.
So if you do it from a distance, you're going to end up turning off the grab component
Oh, in
on the
Blender,
actual
So,
tile.
like, where
Ah,
exactly?
so don't
You
have
need a plugin
permission.
for that.
Hmm.
Oh, sorry, let me
I
promote
can
you,
actually,
Freya.
I can
Hold
find you a
on.
plugin if you want right now. If you want.
Ah, no permission.
Exactly.
No permission. There you go. Right, you're all good.
Yeah.
So
So
if you
we just
just
have
point
to-
that in, yeah, just point it in straight to the mesh,
Wait, what?
and then
Okay.
if you
I
do
don't
it,
mind.
yep, then just try turning off that mesh
On the
collider by
side,
hitting the
Alice is gonna
secondary
import
action.
Some tile sets for us, so
There you go. So now, yeah, perfect. That
Now
works.
it's snapping, huh?
Sorted. Okay, so when you do encounter that issue,
it's
it's
done.
easy to fix. We'll see if there's a way of doing it in the future, but right now in Neos we can't grab like component slots in that way, so it's a little difficult. Right. So, did you manage to do it on this one?
No, I had a leg.
You had a lag. Okay. So, just move it on in to like here. So make sure you're pointing right in on the mesh rather than down here. Like
Yeah,
right in.
right.
Put your hand on there. Put it in. Now over. The one with the tooltip.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah, you might want to reset all your positioning now.
plugin name.
Oh, undo actually. Sorry, you've already made it into a tile. So you want to undo until it's straight
I
again.
think there
I
is
didn't.
one. That's why I was saying that I can find one for you
Oh.
if you want to. Like,
No.
carry on,
Okay.
like,
So
bringing
if it
in,
doesn't flash,
like,
but you've
doing
hit
it
complete
the way the tile
tile
did
and it
before,
has
then
been
it's like
selected,
back
it
center
is a
over.
tile. So
Yeah.
I'll show you what I mean now. So it makes a bit more sense. Yeah, the flash is the
Are you
visual
saying you've
indicator
got
that
one
it's gone
for me,
fine.
Aldous?
But the error that's happened here is that
Okay.
Wait. wait. You didn't make it into a tile. Sorry, I thought you clicked the button.
I don't know. It's just a weird thing to say. It's
No.
really random.
Never mind. Just go through it. Just go through it. It's okay. Right. So from the back, now that this is set up as a tile, yeah, and if you just move this one up, so you've made this into a 1x1,
I
the
got
same
it there, I
height.
changed it up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I got it.
what
I
you
mean,
could
we
do
didn't make
here
it,
is you could
we buy
either
our asset packs
have it
because
so
we want
that
time to, you know,
that
make the
is
models and
attached to
stuff.
this already in the inspector before you make it into a tile,
Alright, I'm gonna
so it's
quickly
all
go
just
and
one
say
object.
find this plugin for
Mhm.
Firefly.
Or you could have it so that the height of the object is set so it automatically goes on top at the default layer height. Or you could make a new layer and change that layer's height under the height setting so that that ends up on top.
Getting boosted now.
Let's try this new layer thing.
Mhm.
Layer.
Make sure you've got the
Oh.
previous one deselected.
Oh. Yep.
I'm sorry, I'm not working today.
There you go. And if you just change the layer height on that,
Would it be like 2? Or...
just try one to start with. I mean, the best thing to do actually is just to grab that tile that you've made there and then you can see the height in real time changing. Yeah, just give it a little grab.
Just grab it and just...
Yep, there you go.
Yeah, okay,
So now you can see that on the play. Cool. Right, let me see how it's going over here. Hey guys, how's it going over here?
Easy.
All good. It's slow, but I think Chris is just checking if there's a plugin to individually export.
Oh, for
mass.
Blender? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure there is somewhere. It's Blender, so yeah. I mean, the way that I've been doing like all these tile sets, so because obviously they're store bought. I actually put them all into Unity first, and then I make sure the pivot points are all correct, and I use the Unity FBX exporter and just set them all out into a folder, and that way there's zero issues putting them into NEOS under every situation. That's it can be slow sometimes, but in terms of working speed compared to doing what it used to take to do a tile set, now doing about 300 to 1,000 tiles, which is what my workflow is looking like at the moment, is a lot more achievable in a day or two. Yeah.
I was trying to just check now. The Blender, the closest thing is the item you selected is the only thing that will get exported, but when you're looking at a large plane of items, it's like, oh no, this is going to be... I might have managed to export by the time this finishes. So hopefully, yeah, there's like a mass option just to say, dump all these here, please, and
fingers crossed.
Spawn.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. Well, hopefully Chris can find something for that then.
That's okay. I will have a look as well. Where is it? Grabable.
Cool. So, got this all set up. We got. God damn it. Lovely. Okay.
Beautiful.
So this one is all set up and straight. Oh, sorry. I need to undo that. I'm not on your table. Let me to just join it. There we go. Yeah, so this is all set up. It's not exactly straight, I don't think. So you might want to tweak that a bit. Unfortunately, when it's made into a tile, you obviously can't open up the inspector on it by default. You can here, so we'll fix this one to save you doing it again, but you'd have to redo the tile in this particular case. So you want to just always make sure that the rotation is reset to 0, 0, 0. It might feel like doing it by hand is better, but you're always going to have minute differences there.
I did.
You did?
Okay.
Yes.
Let's have a look. One more.
I think I found one.
Scaffolding.
Your scaffolding's broken.
Yeah,
No, the rotation on this is definitely not zeroed. Not to worry.
3D models.
So, we're just going to zero it out here anyway.
Let's have a look. See how well the export was.
So, for those watching this back maybe on VOD, you will notice that the rotation here and position in the scale, well, these are all strange values. That's just NEOS and the way it handles numbers. They're actually just more equivalent to 0.3 and so on. We have our XYZs here, so it's the exact same thing. Really easy to understand when it's on here, less so in here. So our goal is just to simplify this process as much as possible, even though it is still advanced creation. But now that this is reset to 0, this will work just fine. Lovely. But in most cases, you're going to have to recreate the tile. But you can speedrun through it very quickly by just dragging tile on, clicking that, resetting across here, completing tile, and you're done. And then messing with grabable if you need to. So it should be okay. So, now that this is all set up here, let's go ahead and bring in some platforms and additional bits of scaffolding maybe, and then see if we can build a little walkway out and see if we can get them connecting nicely. So,
what the rest of my models look like.
The best way to get things connecting is actually to use reference points. So, you see here we've got the scaffolding, and this is already set to 0, so that's obviously going to work just fine. But if we bring out, let's see, I think I have, yeah, let's do walls. So we have our walls here. So what we're naturally going to want happening with these walls, oh dear, let me just pull this out of your table. I'm sorry for assaulting your table from the back.
I ain't concerned.
Oh dear. So, what we're going to want it looking like is we're probably going to want it snapping perfectly to the sides here. So we may want it in a little bit, or we may want it out on the side. So we can obviously tweak this and make it work just right by going ahead and pulling this over to our tile creator. So let's just go ahead and put this wall here. So from the back, I'm going to get you to walk this one through, but I'll give you a tip along the way.
Let's see if I'm right there. Take that one off.
Yep.
I think I applied, don't
I? You don't actually need to apply the height. That'll be sorted just fine. Yep. But you do want to make sure you've got a layer set to layer height 0, and it should work fine. I don't believe you actually need to do that, but it's best for referencing for using other pieces. Right, yeah, don't worry about it being 6.677561E05 as long as it looks okay on the table. That's fine. But we'll just set it to 0 here just in case anyway.
Alright.
So, we're just going to begin tile construction, and that will grab that. And we're just going to go ahead and reset the position and rotation. So we'll just run through the 3 resets. There we go. And we'll go ahead and reset scale as well, perhaps. So we can see that shrunk down to 0.1, which is a smaller scale. So if you're doing things like bushes and so on, then obviously it's not best to reset scale. If you're doing a large map, and just making it straight into a tile. So, for example, someone who is not present here, but I've also used some of his tips for this because he's done some interesting work using a dungeon creator. So he uses another program called Grid Cartographer to randomize out dungeon layouts and get a huge model for it just on the fly. And then he pulls it in onto here, and he zeroes it all in, makes sure it measures up square by square, and then he'll just scale it all the way, and then you've got a massive dungeon made from scratch, and you can just go use that on the fly and decorate it as you want. So there's a fair few things you can do there. So what we're going to do is we're going to scale this wall up, but what are we going to scale it up against? Well, the good thing with our tile system is things obviously still snap off of the table. So if we go ahead and we grab our foundation off the side that you've just made there.
I grab it?
Yep, just grab it, or you can duplicate it, whichever you prefer, if you want to keep it there.
Okay, whatever.
Wait a minute. Okay, that is snapping, that's fine. And we want to line it up to the center point as much as possible, so what's best here is probably to set the snap size to... let's go ahead with 3. Yep. So there we go, we can see it's lined up perfectly now. So, now that that's lined up, we can use this as reference for scaling this one. So if we go ahead and just start scaling, just hit the plus and minuses. There we go. We can see that's colliding nicely. So in terms of our snapping, our objects obviously snap to the middle of the grid. So we can check very quickly, or they snap to the middle or the lines. So we can check very quickly by just moving this back here, and then maybe here, if that lines up okay from a centralized tile. Which, to me, it looks pretty perfect, to be honest. Yeah, it's close enough, but the issue's going to be is we're going to start duplicating these out and stacking them on the side of each other. And we're going to start having Z-fighting on the collisions here. In this case, it doesn't seem that bad at all because of the model style, really. I mean, yeah, that's pretty much perfect. So these are good. However, for this, we're probably going to want to shift it over a minute amount or up the scale very slightly to be 1.0 rather than 0.9. Because our goal here is to essentially create a snappable tile which is going to be able to seamlessly link together side to side without a gap in between, or the smallest of gaps.
I believe that's why, right? Let's find out. High scale? No. Let's go back to... Yeah, so... Oh my god. What is it? Guess you can't do that. Interesting.
What are you tempted to do, sorry, from the back?
Well, I'm trying to go 0.95, but I guess it doesn't do that.
You can do 0.95, I believe. That should be fine.
I mean, I literally... Now it finally works. Okay.
Yeah. Because there have been cases where we've had tiles that aren't symmetrical, so we've had to up them to 9.128 to get them to snap correctly to different things.
Yeah, for some reason it was going in front of the 9. I'm like, why you do?
I think that's more an issue on the Neos keyboard front than anything, maybe. But yeah, if you're happy with that, then nice. Then in that case, let's go ahead and just finish off that tile.
Yeah, so I have to remove this one, right?
No,
it's
that can stay there. Yeah, you've only got this one selected under the creator, so this hasn't selected this at all.
Because it hasn't been there. Gotcha.
And another thing as well is if you're wanting to make multiple different sizes of the same tile. So for example, if we have this fence here and we want 3 different variants, all we've got to do is duplicate it out 3 times and do one for each variant there. Yeah. And if you're really feeling like you're going to be picky with your tile, then keep one up on backup. If you screw up, just duplicate from it and go again. Nice and simple.
Okay, I get it.
Yep. But yeah, if you just complete that one, it should stack on fine. Perfect. Yeah, so we can see here that they line up perfectly. So we should just be able to pick them on out, line them up. Might have to rotate it the correct direction. There we go. And it should snap in on there. However, I don't know if this one's set as nicely as it could be. Yeah, that's more a case of... so, remember before when we had it at 0.9 instead of 1? So the scale of this relative is 1, but this is dependent on if you prefer having the small gaps on it or not. If you wanted it to fully link around how the tile set originally was, then you'd of course want it at 1. But sometimes things not linking up perfectly is nice too. So in the case of this, we can see this small gap that's created here, and these are clearly a little lopsided for the tile set itself, despite being symmetrical, to give it the effect that it's more man-made. But yeah, you can see here they snap together nicely. They're perfectly fine. To
this one, this is fine.
Yeah. So if you wanted one that snapped perfectly to this, then what you'd want to do is set it to 1.0, so it's the same scale as this directly when it's all imported.
Pretty cool.
Yep.
Pretty.
But yeah, with that done now, he's got a nice foundation base to stand on instead. And how goes your wallage?
Going good.
Is it going good?
Yeah.
Making walls? Okay. I see. Well, in this case then, let's do a small challenge here. Let's go ahead and... Oh, sorry.
And such.
Hello?
They're kind of limited, but there are dynamic meshes that basically dynamic meshes, and so like even if you couldn't get objects to like snap together perfectly seamlessly, you could like basically fill in with procedural
Yeah, so that is definitely an option, is doing procedural meshes, which is more of an EOS thing, with actually using a procedural mesh tool and then building on out. A lot of asset packs, what I recommend doing with them if you're importing your own custom ones is, for example, if we've got gaps within walls, then for these, a wooden plank would do the job. So we just do a vertical wooden plank and we cover that over into that part there. So using objects to fill in gaps will always deal with that problem. one of the things I've done previously is, for example, with these tavern walls. So we actually have the wall as a mesh. This is all baked together now, but we have the wall as a mesh. So this was all made using our tile system. We have the wall as its mesh, and then we have the pillars, which are a separate model. But they've been set up as snappables, and then they've been aligned to each other and then put under the same snap object. So then they just snap straight away together, and you can just go along.
It's like a bunch of... So everything just has a bunch of snapping points set out onto it so that you can...
Yeah, so anything within this can be made into a snapping object. Yeah, so even your procedural meshes, if you were to make them, could be made into snapping objects.
Take an ordinary stone wall and like you could have like two perfectly ordinary stone walls have sort of different features of them depending on the scene.
Yeah. Yeah, so what you could have one stone wall with a large pillar on, and then another stone wall with a different pillar variation, and then those all link together perfectly because you only have the one pillar on the side. So if you have it on the right-hand side, then obviously the left side of the stone wall then clips into that other pillar, and it joins nicely. Even if a little bit of the model is inside, it will still cover that gap there. So yeah, it will snap perfect. It's a really quick way for building out wall after wall if you don't want to do absolutely perfect snapping, and it will still look good.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no.
Right, but yeah, so little challenge. Let's go ahead and pull out all of the tile set here, and what we can do is pull out different bits and pieces and see if we can make a little bit of a scene with them. Completely optional, up to you if you want to or not.
I accept the challenge.
You accept the challenge. I'm going to spawn another supports just in case you want the extra model. Going to spawn some bridges. We're going to spawn some platforms. We're going to spawn the props. And we're going to spawn the stairs alongside, finally, your fences.
Did the object spawn in view? Because for me it's not showing. I don't know if it's
So,
finding them in as like collections.
Yeah.
Printed under.
Yeah, so all these are set up ready to be made into tiles. So I've just done this ahead of time for them. The way we actually spawn things in for our tile sets is we spawn a little potion bottle and drop it on and then unpack.
Yeah, but that's just so cool that you can do things like that. Like literally just have an entire set or collection
ready to make. Yeah.
Mapped to just a single item using parenting.
Yeah, it's really easy, and then obviously you can just pull each one out and use it as you want, and then using our system make it into a snappable. So like Neos obviously does all the hierarchy here, but it's just some nice organization. Yeah.
And heck, with even with setting it up and stuff, it could all this. It'll theoretically at least be parented under that, so you could just literally just everything would just stay organized even as you're doing it.
Yeah, well, what we actually have happening here, so when they're making these tiles, so once the tiles are made, they're actually parented underneath the table. So they're currently assigned to, I believe this is table 4, that's table 3, and everything they grab is automatically put under that. So when I was creating these and bringing them all in... Oh, sorry, Firefly.
Yeah, you can duplicate them.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. What happened was I was parented under one of these tables, so all I had to do to organize them was drag them in the inspector under the one root file or the root object that I'd made for it, the empty object, and then save that, and it was good to go. So this took me about, 10 minutes to sort out all of them together once I got into the swing of it.
Yeah, and so then you've got all...
Yeah.
Everything in an entire scene basically already organized by type and such.
Mm-hmm.
And heck, depending with the parenting stuff, you could probably do some pretty cool wizardry of making big broad strokes edits.
I see.
The thing
Time to rid the competition. I see.
You could have wooden beams, a wooden beams prefab set, and then actually be able to select what wood texture.
Yeah, so again, the cool thing with these is they're all actually using an atlas. So with them all being assigned currently the same material, you could change everything on them.
Oh, on their atlas.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my
It's all
gosh.
organized. It's all really nice. This only comes up to about 11.9 megabyte in total, so super optimized. For the majority of our tile
And so
sets, that's what we aim for.
yeah.
So
And heck, not even just basically any like any reasonably wood-ish material would work for these right off the gate because of
just the way they are. Yeah.
To you know, kind of
Unity.
Yeah, if you wanted to do texture
Yes.
changes to them with the atlas, then you can obviously
Oh
take
my
it into
gosh.
Photoshop or whatever you want, and you're good
you
to
could
go.
do that like do transmutation like you know you know, transmuting you know, wood to stone
Wood to
or
stone. Yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
like
No, you could. Yeah.
literally changes the object's texture to stone.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things we were considering for like one of our tools is actually to have it so when you've got these tile sets, so obviously you can use it to open doors from a distance and lock them and all sorts, but you could also go over like a basic object like a house and you could change the material on the walls from wood to stone, as you just said. That's like a go-to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe have you just rejoined? Okay, re-import them now. I know it's a pain, but yeah.
You see this?
Nope.
Oh,
It might take a moment, as it's got to upload to the dedicated server, and then it's got to showcase for all of us as well. So
I'm missing several. I have on a debug window. I have several gather jobs loading.
yeah, the one thing you're probably noticing is it obviously takes a lot longer to make each individual tile and then build a map out on the fly. So usually the best way to do it is to decide on what tiles you want, or to just have an entire tile set made and then pull it all out and constantly get it going and iterate as you go. Yeah.
What do you think of my custom model?
The beauty of the system is that
Yeah, it's still
it
loading.
only
Custom
needs
models
to
are
be
beautiful.
made is that unless you want to do
So
something
the ones you
different
brought in
with it, like
beforehand,
make
you know,
some
that were
kind
all
of
on one object.
like
Did you
or
put them in a hole?
rotationally unique variation of it. You only need
Like,
to make
did you
it
put them in your inventory
tileable
first, or did you
once.
import them?
Yeah, well, again, if your rotation is to an extent, let's just grab this for example here. I need to make sure I'm on the correct layer. Give me a moment, sorry.
Oh no! I mean, you know the big giant like
There we go.
thing we had first, where all the objects are on one object. Is that did you when you brought that
Okay,
in
so
earlier, was that from your file browser, or was
if
it
I was
from
to
your
grab
inventory
this,
file browser? Okay.
you'll see this is getting dropped down to layer 1 here. That's fine. That's because of the layer that's selected, because of the layer height here.
Yeah.
But we won't worry about that for now. If I turn this over, you'll see it's still rotating and it's snapping 45-degree angle-wise. That's going to go through the table.
Yeah,
but
that's probably why. So
what
the
we can
reason
do,
why
we'll
said
give
it's
from the
going
back a
to
moment to
left
finish off
and
his
it's sending
his
back.
tile. But what we could do
Basically,
is we
so
could
it's
make
getting
another layer
stuck.
and drop this onto that layer,
It's getting
and
stuck.
then we can
It
raise
goes
the
down.
layer height,
So the
which will
best
lift
bet-
this object up. So then
Leave it to
all
your
these
inventory,
objects that are
then
placed
bring it
like
back
this
out. I know it's a
will
lot,
snap to
but
that height position as long as they're turned around on the side. So if you have, for example, a bit of scaffolding that you really like that's at an angle, then what you can do is you can switch that angle variation and have 70 different variations of it, all on one different layer type. So you could have it here, and it here, and as long as you've got the layer height selected correctly for that rotation type, it will work just fine.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
You
it's
could
cool.
yeah, you could have even like yeah.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, you could have and like the layering you could that allows for like practically microscopic detailing.
Yep. Yeah, you can go as crazy as you want, and in the future as well, we're going to essentially have a bake button that what it will do to optimize it all is put all those objects under one main object, bake that mesh together, just have the materials there. It will merge the materials that are duplicates. Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, it's such a
For optimization, it's a must-have. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's so cool that it's literally just a node. Like, oh, just bake all the meshes under this slot into one mesh.
Yeah.
And you just hit the button and boom.
No, it's really, really cool. It's a shame it doesn't allow you to keep colliders and so on from the previous objects, which is something we're working on. But otherwise, it's a really, really good node generally in itself. Like, it's a must-have.
Yeah. And then there's the stuff with it's quite a bit more limited, but it's fun to experiment with convex hulls.
Mm-hmm.
Like converting meshes to convex hulls. It's less related to this, but it does get some very you can get some like very interesting and of course gets convex hull highly optimized results.
Yeah, I mean, we've done that a couple of times for meshes, actually. So if we've made a dungeon, we'll regenerate the colliders to be convex hull colliders, which is, of course, way more optimized. It's obviously, you've got to have a good mess with it, though, to get it just right. And our goal is to have it so rather than messing around and fixing all these things, you can just hit bake meshes, and then you can get your options up and tick some boxes, and it will be create box collider for every single wall tag item. Or create box collider for door, and it will set from local bounds and so on automatically as well. So we want all of that to just happen seamlessly. So all people are doing is building and
then
saving.
That could also like do collider types too. So certain things could be baked to collider trigger colliders, or and whatnot, and that allows really quickly with traps and stuff, because D&D, you just put your traps in with the things, and then blink, you have the the trap colliders ready to trigger whatever they're supposed to trigger.
Yeah. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with it.
Stuff. They could literally be like that named of is categorized with dynamic impulses or such.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, with what we've got planned for handling things such as traps and so on, again, I mentioned before there was going to be a GM tool you could do to toggle states on things. So, for example, you could point at a door, you can lock that door, you can make it so that door ties up to a key, and then that key unlocks that door, that kind of stuff, and that's all automatic. So, rather than those dynamic variables having to be put in through an inspector and through logics, instead all of it's just done straight through a tool, really easy.
To,
it essentially cuts out all the busy work and makes it easy to understand.
Screen,
yeah,
the DM screen.
Yeah, so you'll be able to see all things like, for example, our dice when they're rolled. There'll be a dice feed into a console, and you'll be able to verify rolls and fudge rolls, fake them, call on rolls at certain points from players, and it'll pop up on their UI. Character sheets will tie into weapon swings, and yeah, lots of complicated stuff.
Yeah, oh my gosh, because reminds me of with Blade, how Blade and Sorcery handles weapons, weapon handling in obviously an environment where the physics of controllers is swinging a controller is very different from the physics of swinging a halberd. It introduces a little bit of physics, but just thinking that you could have systems where a character's relevant stats dictate how well the weapon behaves for them.
Yeah, so if you've got a character with a strength value that's high enough to wield a greatsword, more adeptly, then it will show physically by the handling of the weapon, that kind of stuff. I get what you mean. That could be really cool, actually. Just as a way of showing things for fluff. Yeah.
And obviously provide options for, like, you know, it's like less of the binary, like, oh, you can, or oh, you can't, and more of that. You like, you can try and make it work. You know.
Yeah, that could be really cool.
Like, you know.
Yeah, no, I get you. That's a cool idea, actually. Yeah. Awesome. How goes it? Let's see. Ooh. Yeah, these are linking up nicely.
Why aren't you being selected?
Oh, I think I see what you're trying to do here. Gonna make like a surrounded encampment. Maybe? No? Don't know. You're improvising? I see.
Yeah, like always.
Oh, that's a question from Gov of Love, which is... Do you think you'll be able to add weather features to the map table? Fog, rain, and snow? Yes, absolutely. Actually, in our own private testing sessions, we do have features for fog, rain, and snow already. However, we're working on optimizing these a bit and giving them a bit more of a nicer user interface before we make them public. So things such as fog, I'll tell you what, that's the best way to show you. I'll explain it. You'll essentially be able to toggle on for individual players as a GM, fog onto those players, or just all of them at once. And
oh my gosh.
that's the same goes for rain and snow. So then you'll be able to tweak. You'll be able to tweak the opacity of the fog, the color of the fog, the density, and so on. All of this, of course, is in reality within Neos. It falls under the fog volumes and particle effects. We're just giving you a nicer user interface and a nicer way to control all of that, so that it's quick to do on the fly and it's nothing complex. You don't have to go through a million menus to do it, and it's really easy to do. So one of the things as well that we're going to be doing is just like we've got our lighting here. So if I switch this here, you'll see it's changing the majority of the room as well because we've got 4 different lights set up. But yeah, we want to focus on making things really easy for editing rather than having to do everything through complicated menus. So again, weather systems, that will of course fall into place there. Hope that answers your question. And it is absolutely very cool to have like the rain coming on down during a fight when it's nighttime in a room, it's pitch black, your players have their torches on out, the environment is barely lit and they just see rain falling in front of them. Yeah, atmosphere is so important in D&D, especially if you're you can obviously set it up in your imagination, but even just that little step extra of having things such as rain and sound for that rain and having fog itself and being able to block visibility just a little can make all the difference to someone's experience. And if you're building 3D environments, and obviously you've got to have that with it.
Just stuck in the rain. No one but the tiefling can see anything, but the tiefling only has 9 wisdom. Good times.
Let's get some screenshots here as well. Why not?
Why is it not selecting this ladder?
Let's have a look. So, probably because it's not lined up perfectly. What I'd recommend to get it to be grabbed is...
Make it bigger?
Yeah, just make it bigger and then you'll see ladder. Okay, and then you can reset scale and all sorts and it'll be perfect.
Okay, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big ladder.
Very big ladder.
What a thrill!
Snake making a ladder. Yeah.
Alright, who's the funny guy?
There's actually a world. Yes.
The ladder climb? Yeah, I think I've been there.
Bro, seeing it actually to scale, like, really, really drives home how completely absurd that scene
That ladder,
is.
yeah.
It just makes me love it even more.
Okay.
So what Chris has done here, he's just going to go help in his private little development mod. Oh, they're back. Oh my god. Oh, that was timing.
We felt your presence. Hello.
Hello.
You know, I was helping him bring in his assets, so we went into my world, we loaded them in and saved them, and then...
That's cool. Oh, look, yep, there it is. Is it all parented separately as well? Nicely done.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Lovely, lovely.
I found a plugin to help him like export them all as a batch.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it was beautiful.
Yeah, so these should all work now.
I'm going to get rid of the roof so you can pull those down nice and easy.
Oh, and if you're, I mean,
Oh, whoops.
if you're, interested in, like, sorry.
Yeah,
like
no,
with
go ahead.
materials and texturing, if you use, if you're like making like materials and stuff.
Yep.
For in Neos, there's a Blender plugin. I know it is paid. It's like $12, but it's called Easy Bake, and it makes
baking,
oh, you're using Riff? My bad, sorry, Chris.
Yeah, I was using
making, like,
you can
textures,
take it
normal
away,
maps,
I'm just, like, going
maps,
up and
and
down
and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
just
in
pull them down.
Blender.
I'll turn it back on.
Like so that you know, in a way.
Yeah,
that
so
they're,
what
like,
I did,
straight
Chris,
up ready
was
for
when I imported them all, I just then parented them
I'll need something like
under
that.
an object, and then I parented that under another, and then I shrunk the parented object to 0.3. So when it spawns in, it's already tile size.
I was gonna do that, but he'd already saved it to his inventory and it's synced,
the
so I didn't want to do it again.
background instead of the foreground and test options, so you can.
Oh, there's stuff up here too. Oh god.
Okay, I'll leave you to that. Question from Gov of Love. Is there fog of war, or will there be? Or is that just shaded models that you set on top? So, fog of war is interesting. In terms of handling it, when you're shrunk down on a table, obviously what you can see is going to be what you see as your character or as a player. So I wouldn't be able to see anything behind this wall as it stands unless I'm peeking on through. But there's some things we've considered for this. So one of the things, one of the main things is for token vision, actually having essentially a cone that comes off which represents that vision range. So let's say it's dark and you've got dark vision, so you've got 90 feet to sight there on that token in particular, so you're using a model. I'm going to go ahead and spawn in my example little Hero Forge model I imported the other day, actually, just so I can describe this a little easier.
Just make sure to join the table before you make
Here he
more
is,
tiles,
lovely.
by the way.
Look at that, isn't that cool? So, if this token... Keep in mind it's not actually a token right now, but if this token is down on here, then you're going to have that 90-foot cone of vision range. So what we can do is, with the way that we tag our objects, we could potentially have it so that if this token is facing this way and you're assigned to this token as a player, what will end up happening is it will turn off line of sight or that object's mesh render for the other objects that you can't see as a player. Meaning, obviously, you've got a proper fog of war system there. You don't have to worry at all about the rendering for things such as enemies and so on, and them appearing in distant dungeon rooms and people peering on over the table. So that's probably the best way of handling that. In terms of doing it for maps, we could potentially have that tag apply to maps as well, which would mean you're going to have a token come on in, and then you'd have, for example, maybe, I don't know, let's say we've got this wall in front of us here. So we would see that from this distance, and that's fine. But when we turn around again, that wall would then disappear. So doing a memory system for that, much harder. So that's something I don't think is going to be possible. But having the basis of things, and having sight visions for enemy tokens and for things like chests and so on and decorations inside of rooms, absolutely possible. But the base layout, maybe not so much. A additional thing I want to cover as well. Let's just read your comment here. That's cool. Checked out Hero Forge as well. Yeah. The footage is really awesome with the figures you can make. My party currently, I've just got them all to make their own characters again using it, and they all look so cool. But with Fog of War as well, for first person, so with things like dark vision, you might be thinking, so the individual player isn't actually able, isn't going to be able to tell a difference between it being light or being dark individually in the distance they can see. Well, by using some really carefully tweaked LUTs or filters that essentially go on that individual player that's local to them, we can make it so that you will have better sight naturally as a player than the other players would in certain situations, so within darkness. So rather than dark vision being something that's represented just by lighting up the map, you will just generally be able to see slightly better than everyone else to the point you'll be able to see in the distance, which should give a more realistic viewpoint of that. And as a player, you'll be able to toggle that off from your menu. So you can toggle it on and off in case you're out in bright worlds, and it would obviously hurt your eyes. So you want to be able to have that toggled off in that case.
So just a system that makes things less darker as opposed to more brighter.
Yeah, essentially. But it's got to be localized per player. And using LUTs, you've got to have that measured exactly to a view distance for squares. So it's all got to be really carefully balanced through LUT graphs that are made.
Like the squares.
And there's going to be several different variants made as well.
That adds a wrinkle to a lot of stuff, is like quantizing it to the game grid, essentially.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, so like a blur at a certain focus.
Errors go brrr.
So like a blur at a certain focus. Less a blur and more. So if you're in a dark cave, the lighting itself, I can't exactly show it here because we have 4 table lights, but I'll show it the basics of it by just turning down 2 of the tables in the center. Okay, so these are already down. So you can see already, as we tweak this lighting, it gets darker and darker. Do you mind if I just do it on yours as well, Firefly, real quick?
Oh, sorry, yeah.
So you can see, we've already got this darkness creeping on in here, and I'll do it on here too. And now we just got the light over there. So with a pitch black skybox, it is going to be completely dark within here to the point that as a player, you cannot see. So for a shrunk down token, how do we handle, for a shrunk down player, the way that we handle letting you see is we have the smallest amount of light, so much that it doesn't make a difference as a player for visibility. But when you start applying LUT filters, so these again are filters that change the contrast, the saturation, and the brightness levels of the image for that local player, you're going to be able to see exactly 90 feet in the distance the edge of that one square, and it will be more in detail. So it will still be dark, but you'll have the feeling of having a bit of night vision, if that makes sense.
Oh no.
Yeah, hope that answers that too. Go with love.
Yeah, so like, yeah, kind of like, like kind of like a grayscale vision, where you can like make out, where it's like enough information to make out shapes, but not like colors or textures.
Yeah, because the way I've always viewed things such as dark vision, and if you look at representations of how cat sight actually works, it doesn't make everything bright and oversaturated in an area. You get highlights on the lighting of things at a distance.
Yeah.
So I think
because it's not because it's not like
you're a bit out of that, yeah.
It's not.
Yeah,
like light sensitivity, color sensitivity.
It's light sensitivity for that individual, like just the exterior light. So those white bands, essentially. Yeah.
It's
so
like increasing the exposure time on a camera.
Exactly, and we can obviously do that with digital screens, so we don't have to worry too much about it.
And then we can make like an environment.
So. The interesting thing with doing that is I always view dark vision as being this thing that the environment should still be creepy if you're in a dark cave. It shouldn't all of a sudden be lit up and bright and you can see all the waterfalls and so on about and beautiful. It should still have the exact same feeling that it has for a standard a standard player who doesn't have dark vision. So you want to keep that feeling over, which is a challenge, because all of a sudden, when you're in a 3D environment, you will break that immersion immediately if all of a sudden you can see all the details in that cave. You've got to be really careful with how you show it. So for things like
I'll take these ones first, and then,
blind sight and so on, or hearing, from the characters, the ears themselves, there could be different ways of visualizing that through like a point visual style further on, but that's more theory talking than actual like in stone plans for going that far. But that could be something potentially to visualize that. So there's a lot of different mechanical ways about linking in immersion and making sure it still works by the rules of D&D that we've got to really iron out and get going as a method of showing that. So that's all later down the line when character sheets are done, but it's we are thinking about it, that's for sure.
Oh, and heck, like, yeah, like, this is like definitely further down the line, but like, as haptics become more of a thing, that it'd be interesting to see
Neato.
how you can incorporate that into things like, blind sight or even tremor sense.
Yeah, being able to feel something in the distance on a suit rather than... yeah, that could be really cool. But again, it's conceptually, because it's so limited to the amount of people it comes to, we want to get it on a wide range, so it's mainly going to be what you hear and what you can see. But that would be cool for implementation in the future, for sure. But we'll see where VR goes in the next 5 years, eh? If we all have full body suits, and yeah. If you have time, could you explain the layers on the map table? Sure. I'll tell you what. Why don't I get Chris to explain the layer system, because it's his child.
Yeah, no worries.
There's another interesting
yeah,
thing.
I'll let me just set you up first, Chris.
Yep. Just you're referring to, like, obviously this kind of thematic mechanical abstraction is one thing. If things like true sight.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think you'd handle implementing something like that?
So for true sight, again, that would being able to see through stuff like darkness and stuff. So when the spell is cast. So in terms of things like darkness, what we could do using our tagging system is we would just have the tag for darkness that it's darkness or magic, or that it's affected by true sight. So if that character then has true sight, then it can just turn off the mesh render for darkness, and then that's hidden there. So that kind of stuff is definitely possible. Again, it's all theory crafting, and a lot of it comes down to huge flowcharts of having the correct tags on different items. Yeah. But by having everything tagged, it should just work with those systems once those foundations are in place. The goal here is to have it so you can essentially not have to go layers deep into showing things, and it should just work. Yeah.
All the things are relatively simple to implement. It's just that there's a lot of them.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like why our tile system is made the way it is. It's made so you can do a lot of things at once with it, really simply. But anyway, so Chris, layer system.
Yep. Have I got the camera and my own broadcast?
Yep, you're on the camera. You've been on the camera for a bit, and you're broadcast.
Alright, wonderful. So, the layer system, it's pretty simple, but it can get very complex the more you go into the system. So, to get started, all you want to do is you just want to create a new layer here. What it'll do is it will create a global layer. The reason why this is called a global layer is because in the future, we'll have like a building layer. So, if you are making a building, let's say a shop, you can have a layer designed specifically for that, and then have each layer as a floor underneath that building layer. So these are just normal layers as they are. Now, you'll notice that once you make the layer, it will go grey. If you select it, it will become active. This is where it will make it so that tiles can actually go to that layer. Yeah, it will go to that layer. And so to show you real quickly, so I'm just going to quickly duplicate this so I can quickly make a tile to show you. So just boom. Okay, so you'll notice that object wasn't snapped originally, and with the system I just created it into a snappable. Now if I let go of this, it's snapping to that layer. So you'll notice if I put it on the table, it snaps to half spaces and center spaces. So if I now deselect this, you'll notice that if I let go of this now, it'll become massive. That's because you don't have a layer selected, so it's parenting not to the layer system at all. So it won't work. You've got to make sure you have a layer system at all times, and it's green basically. So let's say we want to make a second floor, for example. Now, what you want to do is you want to deselect the layer that you were just working on, and you can create a new one. And once you've selected that layer you're now working on. So if I select this settings icon just here, everything all good? Yep, everything's all good. You'll notice a layer height, and you've got the layer name here. So we'll just set this name to second. And then we've got the layer height here. So if we set this to 3, so it should set it just above this here. So what we'll do is the layer height here, it's set
really cool.
in
Yeah, there's only just one
cube
problem.
space.
I
So
made
with
two,
the tokens that we have,
too many things on
they're
there.
in feet. So
Look,
if
it's not like
if you want to go
made
up
it
like
too many
10
things
feet,
on
you
there.
type in
I
10.
need to
With the layer
optimize
system,
it.
it's done
really
by
bad optimized.
grid spacing. So
Like, it has too much
3 high
vertices.
would be 3 of these grid spaces.
True.
So if we now
So if
Yeah.
you don't
Click
have a good
apply.
computer,
you'll notice
it's
that the
not
name
ideal.
changes here, and then if we move this,
so but yeah,
it'll go up
I
3
will improve.
spaces.
It's just
So if we
another day.
duplicate this now,
Right now,
we can now just work on the layer system up the top here, and then if we
it's just nice to see.
move them down here. So as you'll
Mhm.
notice that I've set it too high. Now, obviously I was just working blind there. Now to make it so that you can see what you're doing, if you turn on the debug mode, oh, I've been pushed underneath. Shouldn't be a thing. You'll notice that there's a debug grid that turns on. Now this is where we can see what height we're at. If I keep bringing this down, so if we want to set this exactly, it looks like a 1.75. Oh, almost there. Maybe like a 6. Oh, that's way too much. A 1.6 looks fine. Yep. And then if we hide the debug grid so that I'm not being pushed underneath it, you'll notice that they now snap on top of each other. Oh, you're not. As you'll see, I had the second layer selected, so it would put it inside. In the future, we'll have it so that there'll be like a lock button on the side just here, where it will lock the layer so no one can touch it other than the DM. So we then move this down. There is another feature that is Tom here. Whereabouts is Tom? Tom's behind me.
Right behind you.
So there is another feature with our snapping system where, for players, it's just a matter of demoting the players so that they don't move the tiles. So if I quickly just open my menu,
Can you do that
and
while oh,
change-
it's a dedicated. Yeah, of course
Yeah.
you can.
I'll change Tom's missions to spectator. If he jumps on the table now, you'll notice that if he tries to move one of the tokens or the snappables, they won't move.
And as well, if you want to just quickly show it having a collider on there too.
Yep, no worries. Let me just pop one on. So if we set a character collider to this.
Now
You'll
you can
notice
see
that-
I'm climbing this, but Chris, as the GM role here, can just
I
pick
can
it up, move me about,
and-
still snap it about. Kind of nauseating, to be honest, so be careful if you do that to your players, but, you know, you could take them on a wild ride if you want.
Yep. So and then once you're done with your system, with your layers, for example, with your area, you can then pack it together. So let's say my players are going through a forest, and then they find a door that opens up to a dungeon. What you could have is you could have a table with a forest and then a door, and then as they open that door, you say, okay, everyone, just stay there a second. You pack it up. You can either bring out a potion and unpack it so that behind that door there's a dungeon now, or you can make it so the players come off and then you can unpack it. So if we pack this together, a potion has appeared, and then if we and you'll notice that the tiles over there have disappeared. Then if I unpack it, they're back again, and the layers are back as well in the order that they were in. So yeah, it's about everything really.
Yeah, hope that covers everything for you, Gov.
There is no height limit,
I'm just doing
so
like
I
a
can
quick
set this.
rock face.
Obviously, we have a roof here, so you're not going to be able to see how high it goes up.
You okay?
So if I set this to 10 real quick so we can see a debug grid, and then if I set this all the way to 20, or maybe even
That will be okay.
30. Like, we can go high up as we want to,
Mhm.
and the tiles will snap up there. So if I quickly just fly up there, you'll notice that we've got a tile up here. So the height is pretty much infinite. If you want to build a massive tower, like SAO Einkrad Castle, you know, go ahead. Be my guest. I would love to see it. But yeah, there is no limit whatsoever.
And it can go negative too, for cases of using the mega grid. If you're never, you know, you don't want a table, you just want a huge map, you can do that too. That's an option.
Yeah, so you can... Sorry, it will go into the table, so I'll just do it by a 0.5. You'll notice that it's now in the floor.
So the way that these half walls work, actually, Chris, if you just look behind you. So this entire tavern room, the entire tavern as a thing is actually built using our snap system. But these walls here are done exactly using that. They're the exact same walls that you see up there, but they're just shrunk down into the ground. And that's given us this kind of half look.
You'll notice, if I come down here,
Oh my gosh,
little sneak peek, you'll see that they're underneath the floor.
Oh, I hear the music.
Yes, Jack and the Beanstalk would, honestly, if people want to make a massive build, I just love to see it.
It would be awesome. I think we'd need our baking system, though, to make sure it would run really, really well, depending on what it is.
For sure.
Yeah.
The last thing is, with the layer system, obviously you've got a clear table layer, clear table button, sorry, and a little refresh button here. So the refresh button is mainly for if the layers will mess up and you need to fix them, just a matter of refreshing. The active layer will still stay the same, and obviously you can clear the table too.
Fun to do
underwater.
underwater.
At all, or... Be fun to do an underwater. Yeah, that'd be.
Yeah, I think
we've got one of our testing team that wants to do an underwater, a water one shot.
Yeah, I think that the way to do stuff like for water would probably be you can actually get like a water layer, and then you can have that up the top, so that would be a higher layer, and then underneath you have a transparency blue box, or you make use of our upcoming, as you mentioned, fog features, to then create the feeling of being underwater on the players by just applying a fog filter with like a bluish kind of feel or a darker blue feel. And then using that with some sound, you've got that feeling there. And then you can just start putting objects up and around this big box environment you create for underwater. So they're floating about. You could perhaps add a wiggle or a wobble component to them before you make them into a tile, so they start moving slowly in the water, and you're good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's a lot you can do, definitely.
What's the saying? Your mind is your limit of imagination, or whatever the saying is. I can't remember the saying.
Your imagination is the limit. There you go.
There are mesh displacement textures, and the panner component, so you could have like, you could allow for some really, really strange nonsense.
Yeah. I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, you could potentially have the components already on like a prefab layer within our templates, Chris, and then you can edit them later. Yeah, so that would let people wobble without having to even look at an inspector in the future. That way you could do like levitation and stuff on different tiles. Yeah. These are even useful for us now. Wow.
Components transform drivers, everybody's favorite folder.
Oh, this is looking great. Ooh. I feel like Snake's gonna start infiltrating or something. You need like some guards posted about. You could start like having parts of the walls missing here, so you could sneak underneath and all sorts. It could be really cool to make like an encampment in that style.
Yeah, and then
Yeah, like like imagine like you know
I'm on the wrong table.
something like it,
Needs to be on this one.
some kind of stealth mission where you can like act like in first person, and you can actually like see the guards like line of sight.
Yeah.
Just
I
like
mean, you could
their,
also, what you could do is you could have
eyes or whatever.
yeah, you could have like on your wrist a portal view. So you look straight down on that portal view. You have a local render, so it's showing the FOV cones of the guards, and they're just little dots above their heads instead. So you have to check your wrist to see the field of view and check where you are in relation to it as you're hiding underneath a bus or something. All sorts you could do. Neos, it's endless.
Yeah, heck, you could even use that to like get a viewport of like another entity's POV entirely.
Yeah. Definitely. Like, there's a lot you can do. Oh, hi there.
Oh my
Welcome.
gosh, and like familiars.
Mm-hmm.
D&D 5e wizards, they get,
Oh yeah, I don't know with the familiars. Yeah.
yeah, and they can do that thing where they like channel into it.
And it changes the viewpoint or something, or they can view it on their wrist as a portal. Yeah, there's all sorts.
They can see, they can see and hear. They basically like hop into their familiar's body for a bit, and like they're like their own body like goes slightly catatonic for a while. Like they can still speak from their original body, but that's about it.
Yeah, that could be really cool. It's not really something we've thought of, because obviously we do have plans for a spell system, but familiars were never something we really considered in terms of controls and how they'd work. Changing models could obviously handle that. What could be cool as well is actually treating it more like a surveillance drone. So you would, again, look at your wrist, or you get a little window opened up that's like a magical portal that's created for that eyesight. So all the party can see that too as a group, or you can toggle it off so just that one player can. And it's treated like it's a surveillance drone. So you remote control it from your controllers, and you can then send it down a path in a dark dungeon. And that way you still get like that sort of feeling that you're present within the dungeon where you are. And then you're sending that off to scout rather than you just sneaking on ahead to see everything everywhere. I think that could give a better feeling for it, because then you could even tweak different things like the field of view and so on for that particular creature based on that.
Add like, because the main thing of doing that is that your character is basically completely vulnerable while using it, because they have zero awareness of their own body.
Yeah, that could be really cool. Definitely. Let's have a check how these tiles are going. Ooh.
Those tables empty.
I don't like it. Oh yeah, there's this table's empty at the moment. So yeah, if you want to have a mess around on it, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, oh my gosh, like
someone's gonna have a bad day right here.
with that, with like magic and stuff, you could.
Sorry, Odyssey, you were saying you wanted to load something? Give me a moment. Let me just tweak my voice volume so I can hear everyone. Just a moment.
For like,
the potion stuff that you can reload a whole table in an instant.
That
is already damn nice.
This is so the photos from last time, and I try to open the orb from last time. I hope it spawns in a second.
Yeah, it should spawn on it. Just make sure you're assigned to this table as well, so just click the join table button on the side. Just to make sure you're all set up correctly.
Wait, why am I still loading?
As long as you pressed it once, you should be okay. If it's a large file, then it might take a moment. Yeah. Oh, that's massive. Whoa. Whoa. Don't worry. That's snuck into something somewhere. Let's have a look. Where has that gone? Could you undo for a moment?
Do it again.
Whoever grabbed it for a sec. Okay, right. Yeah, it just needs to be up and above, and it should. Where is that snapping to?
Last time I was just saving it, yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did nothing.
Chris, you're just going to scale it down anyway. Yeah, it should not be spawning large. I actually spawned them the other day to check they all worked, and they'd spawned in small, so that's a strange one.
Down to the floor. Oh no.
Spell effects like
Don't worry, Chris. You got this.
Avatar could have, you know,
Oh,
certain tags,
maybe
go.
got the connection
like,
problem with networking.
components or tags in the same way that like prefab materials do, so that like, you know, stone skin, like
3 types of network.
you know, like actually physically like turns your characters.
Yeah, well, we're planning on doing a ton of stuff with spells, so again, it's about tying everything into our own system, so for spells, you're going to be able to essentially code in your own, well, not code in, sorry, but create your own templates for spells, so you can change the dice that are rolled when they're cast. You can create a spell orb, so you pull the spell, you crush it in your hand, psh, or you can set it as an automated thing, and there'll be a lot you can do there.
A scripting language within a scripting language.
I don't know, it's less scripting language, it'll be more visual template for changing things, so I think homebrewing. We'd have, of course, the SRD spells all sorted, everything legal that we can do. But otherwise, it would have to fall under homebrew, so we want to do stuff for letting people have custom spell effects and so on, potentially, or using some of our spell effects to represent others. So we'll speak more about that when the time comes for it, because right now our focus is going to be on improving the GM systems and interface alongside character sheets and getting in some more tile sets, but spells are they're going to be a big thing, like a huge undertaking to get it looking right, but that's going to all fall in with the weapon systems as well and so on. So again, it's GM systems, foundations, and yeah. I couldn't give an exact date for it, but I'll say this upcoming year is probably going to be near the end of it for looking at things such as spells and so on from where we are. Unless things go really fast, you never know, but we'll see. But I don't want to overpromise at all, so yeah, we'll see. Hi there, welcome. How's it going, Ghost? Good to see you.
Yeah.
We're just going through a GameMaster training event right now, so I've been teaching people how to create custom content and tiles for the system from like their own creations and things. Yeah.
With you and your friend. If you need a hand learning how to use this, me and Ades can show you. You and your friend.
This we did build last time.
You trying to get as many custom tiles as you can in? I say, are you trying to get as many custom tiles as you can in for this?
No, just
Where's my laser on?
making.
You're just making them? Yeah, you're going like wild with the amount. It's cool. Like, it's good. Hard work.
I know, I'm going then, yeah, it's never stopping.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute, there's a tiny region. Destroy it.
That's a tiny enemy, yeah.
That's neat. If my friends just play with Neos, that would be cool because we're playing right now.
We could have done that, yeah.
How's it called? Pathfinder.
Pathfinder. Yeah. There's someone within our Discord actually who's looking to run a Pathfinder 2nd edition campaign, and they want to run it entirely in our stuff. So it's cool. Like it all works nicely with it as well. If you bring in your own character sheets, and yeah, it's all usable. So.
Also, it would be cool to play like because my friends play like the Warhammer 40k universe.
40k, yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool to play too. Right here.
I mean, I think it works really well for 40k off the base that I can think of. So you just need the models in essentially, and then you set them up as snappables, and
yeah, hologram is pretty good.
Yeah,
like
good to go.
Here.
Mm-hmm.
They don't snap.
This is a Age of Sigmar. But
Some do.
I'm still learning photogrammetry.
Like some ways.
So you can bring your models in here.
Yeah, I will try to model that things, but it would be difficult for me. I'm a modeler, as you can see. I mean,
Yeah.
but I'm like the beginner mostly.
Hey, Flowgrammy kind of does it for you.
I mean, yeah, if you have the
No,
models,
but I
I
don't
roll.
have the money for that thing.
Oh yeah, a little bit
I
expensive.
live in Russia, so what can I say?
Yeah, I understand.
Do you know what even?
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I guess one of the things though for the like the 40k community, I feel if people who played 40k learn that they could bring in their own models and so on into here, there's already a ton of people who have model collections and so on that they would be more than happy to bring them in if they had VR, I think, to this, because there's already about 5 different applications for playing 40k as it exists at the moment. A lot of people do it through Tabletop Sim, which is the same premise as this minus the cool advanced VR stuff. Ooh,
That is a power cell.
it's pretty. It's good.
And, yeah, and each time when it duplicates, it will spawn orbs in random positions.
Ah, so it's a variation every time. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, that's awesome.
Yeah, we also have the bottles.
Yeah, I've seen your bottles are the ones that they pour into the containers, right? And then you can flip them over, and you've got the triangulation stuff. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Actually, I made it a week ago. One more thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the weapons, but still it can be useful in an RPG.
Is it a
I can
flamer?
remake the logics. Yeah,
Oh, it's a flamer. That's awesome.
It's a chemical thrower and it's a flamethrower.
Okay, that's awesome. Very cool. Yeah, guys, we've been messing with your weapons for a while because they're all super cool. You're like the sole man responsible for all the weapon systems in Neos at the moment, in terms of like the quantity. You're a very dangerous man indeed.
I actually made it for myself, the power glove, as you can see.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And it has also the functions.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Just watch. Wait. Yeah, it's making the lightning strikes.
It's awesome.
The second... I need to press it manually. The second mod, it's allow to change the user gravity.
Ah! Awesome.
Imagine that people will.
Yeah, I'm now trying to figure out what else to do with that power glove.
Yeah, there's a lot. That's cool. Yeah. That's awesome. No, nice work, man.
My friends already asking me about to model the Exitus from Warhammer 40k. It's a rifle of Vindicars.
Ah. Vindicator rifle. Yeah.
The freaking high caliber weapon.
It would be awesome.
Oh, my lord.
I know, what's his name? Is it, Oh dear, I've got him in my friends. Is it Stadarko? Or Staccato? He wanted to create like a Titan from 40k and make it into a map in general and have it so you can play 40k on there, so could be cool. We'll see if it comes out.
He's trying to make it to where you can go inside the big Titan.
Yeah. I remember him really gushing about it to me before and showing me the model he was decking out for it, so it could be interesting.
It could be interesting to use that in if we have like roleplay in the Warhammer 40k universe. Because your system is like a hell of a thing. I tried to use it, but I don't really figure out how to do the custom styles, because every time when I try to make a barrel, it makes it very, very high.
Right, so
we have alien ones.
In that case, Ghost, we can. He said alien ones. Okay. I'll happily teach you stuff now if you want, because this is a GM training session on custom content. So, right one to join in on. Yeah. Awesome. Right. In that case, let's head over to table number 3.
You gotta create all over again.
Hang on. Let me
Is it
just...
like begin tile construction?
Where's Ard?
Yeah.
Is he here?
Okay, I thought I checked just before in case it breaks it.
No, what we'll
or,
do,
like,
we'll
doesn't
pack this up.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, so
now it does it.
basically what it does.
Let me join the table first so I can.
In this case, if we want to.
Oh, is the pack button broke here? Uh-oh. Hey, Chris, sorry, can you just try this real quick for me? Just try hitting the pack over here.
Spider eggplants.
What?
Oh,
yeah, it wasn't working for me. Interesting. Yeah, could you pack it back up for a moment? Ah, or can you just hit that for me, Ghost?
And there's the spider.
If it works for you.
like elephants.
I don't want to throw the work away, so... Yep, just hit back table. There you go. Nice. Cool. And we'll get rid of this. We'll just save it over here for now.
It's saved, you can remove it.
Right. Oh, okay, cool. I didn't know if you... Oh.
Oh yes, would have perfectly...
Like for a moment, there's a lot there. I didn't know if you made any changes or anything to it, so...
No, it's fine.
Okay. Right. So...
Doesn't see those things in the distance. Those are perfect.
Chris is,
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's what I see in England.
Making alien worms.
Alien worms. Interesting. I was just going to show Ghost how to make custom tiles, because he'd made mention before he'd attempted to, but his tiles end up high up in the ceiling. Like, they'll move upwards. I think it's probably a pivot point thing.
Probably a pivot point.
Yeah. You want to just try spawning one of those in, Ghosts, that you tried importing?
Well, let's just try to use this decorative bubble.
Yeah, sure. So, let's just drop that on there. Then, begin our tile construction. Okay, that's selected. Let's just reset the position and the rotation.
Tom, I need you to undo. Bring
Oh.
back that orb. Bring the orb back.
Yep.
What?
Not happening. Sorry. Orb's gone.
Ah! We lost like half the tiles. They were on there.
It's okay. I will sort it. I will sort it. I will go through these.
The tiles are on the orb. The one I deleted.
Because he was working on that table.
Yeah. Oh,
There's
that's
no
a shame.
on this table.
Oh. Exactly. Right, let me just reset the lighting at least.
No one's on this table.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Me.
Hello.
Hey there.
Hey, guys.
Right, so... Yep, you just set that Y height and get that around about all right. And did you want this to be like realistically scaled so down on the table it's appropriate? Or okay, so just by changing the scale on here you can obviously bring it on down. Your default scale is pretty high at the moment. Yeah. There you go. Just keep bringing it down a bit maybe. Yeah, if you think that's about right. And then you're just going to want to change that Y height down a little.
Grab the door and then you grab it again. Yeah, you grab the door.
What did I do?
Right? Yeah, so you grab it again and then whoosh.
You like my little
Okay, so now that that's done, just hit complete tile and you should be okay. Or we'll see if there's any issues with that. Yep, now just try moving it.
Door. Hold on.
Perfect. There you go.
Okay, it's sticking.
Yeah. So some of the things you might have missed for like why it was shooting up in the air. When you make a tile and when you are also placing tiles, you need to make sure you have a layer selected on the layer system. So you just click new layer to make sure there's one there, and you click so it's green, and then you can make edits to it and so on from there too. So for some reason my interaction is just completely broke. Oh, Chris, can you get rid of spectator on me? That's why. Thank you. Right, so now that this is on a layer, we can change the layer height. So if we want to move it up to a different height value, any tile that's set to this layer will then set on that height. But we can have another layer, and let's just call this floor.
What the f is wrong with you? Why would I want to eat my gem?
No, can I eat it?
And then we'll just apply the changes to the layer name, refresh just in case. And for floor, we'll set our height down to 0. Oh, and we'll set this one back up to 3. There we go. So, if I have this layer selected but not floor, this is still on floor. The moment it's interacted with, it gets put onto the floor layer instead.
You can mess with it too.
I swear.
And then we can choose to hide individual layers too, as well. So if we duplicate out this tile we just made, these are two separate different layers now, so we can hide them individually and show them individually and switch between them on the fly.
If you just say, and I can teach you how to use all this. And hopefully.
You actually can put the stuff between tiles.
It'd be nice to do that NEOS activity.
Yeah, so we let you snap on the center.
Doing something that's nice.
Thank you. That's cool.
Oh, great. Was that you, Chris?
Yeah, I gave you a flower.
Oh, okay. Sorry, just a flower appeared.
Your audio broke?
Yep.
Oh, okay. It's smooth on me? Okay. Yeah.
Is this the light now? Is this the light?
So what was Tom saying?
He's saying me about the tile setting.
I know that he was saying about how it only snaps to the middle on the lines and the corners.
No, I actually asked him about, so it can be snapped not only to the center of the edge, it can be snapped between.
Phantom sense.
Yes. Yeah. So in the future, I'm going to be making a tile where it doesn't snap at all, but it will snap to the layer that you're selected. So for decoration, if you wanted to put a table that wasn't on a snapping area, like, you can do that, as well as if you wanted to put stuff on a table that you don't want snapping, you'll be able to do that in the future. I just haven't got round to that.
Okay.
Where's the roll?
So make sure to begin first, yep.
I need to rotate it, oh my god.
What were you grabbing?
So
tiny.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, okay, it's very delayed for me. That's fine.
So what does this do?
This is
If
based
it
off
detects
heads.
somebody close to it, it will enable the lamp.
At distance.
Ooh, nice.
So yeah, for something like this, if you wanted to make it into like a Dean's detail table, why are you
That's
not
odd
scaling?
because it cannot be scaled. Some reason.
Let's have a look.
Oh, there's no colliders. Oh, there's colliders in the trees. Villager raid.
Okay, so it's under there. That's why.
I mean,
This is being scaled.
Oh shit, I can't.
The credits are being scaled rather than the root node.
So it's choosing the first one node.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me this the second after the make the order of set 1.
There we go.
Now it should work.
Yeah, there we go. Wonderful.
It actually scaled the table, but not the stools around.
Jesus.
Okay.
Solid
I know
snake
how
face
to
is
fix
very
that.
intimidating.
Open the inspector again.
Yep, we'll do. Sorry.
Please select it myself.
Okay, so
Place
the stools.
under the root node. That's
There we
enough.
go.
Well, see, I'm a Christmas
should
tree on
work
my
right now
regular
properly.
avatar. And just whenever I'm full body, I go snake.
Why not?
Because the full body doesn't work on my Christmas tree. It breaks.
I think that would be good. Complete tile. Oh.
Overall, pretty
I actually
interesting.
forgot. The stools are adjustable. Let me just try to use it. I am just one of those
So can you sit
Awesome.
in them?
Hey there.
Can. Yo, hey man.
Hello.
It's a bit
How are
unlucky,
you?
but this is
Doing good, thank you. How about yourself?
Sorry.
Doing good. Just wondering.
That's
Mhm.
nauseating.
It's somewhere here around.
Wait, I see
We
a
managed
doodle.
to select it while we were big. It's a lot easier while you're big. Hey man.
Ooh, look at this.
Yeah, we made it a tile with a table.
That's awesome.
And you can sit in it.
Wait, so can I move up your seat while you're sitting on it?
No.
No, no.
No, I can't.
You can, but it's a little
You
bit
can move the
awkward to
entire
aim
table,
on
yeah. So,
you need to aim on an invisible cylinder somewhere around here. I need to make a handle one.
mhm.
Ah, this is where we need to demote people.
mine's
Okay,
very
so give me a
simple.
sec. I'm gonna demote you, Ghost. Now try it. You should
Yeah, if you're a spectator, which is a player role.
This is like you're just gonna jump.
Yeah, now I cannot move the tiles, but I
Yes,
can
that's the design.
Move the,
No,
yep,
trees are.
move the height on it.
that's cool.
It's a Christmas tree in the tavern, so
Awesome.
what I made, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's-
that's
you know,
really
that's
cool.
will be a cool decoration for like.
No.
Do you see the
for
one
the mission
downstairs?
briefing, kind of.
Yeah, yep. Ghost, I will appreciate you
Seems like
forever
there's
if we have sci-fi tiles like this. That'd be so cool. It's just interactable stuff.
Like, alright, let me set up. Nice. Just gotta make chaos.
It's awesome.
He's like, I'm gone for 5 minutes.
You
and
know,
this is what
we
happens.
I also have these things.
Ah, the
Simple
weapons
Yes.
crates, yes.
medium crate. And the big hell of a crate.
Alright, I'm on full
That one is
body.
simple. That one too. But that one contains
Whoosh.
additional 2 shells.
So cool. Yeah. It's so awesome.
Very, very nice.
Gives me Borderlands
We can
vibes.
make the
The
freaking sci-fi roleplay.
Mhm. You could do so much sci-fi stuff with it. Like, you know, you got your weapons dealers and so on. I mean, you already have all the weapons, but like, there's just so much stuff that you've done because you got these interactable elements that work really well. Like, it just adds that extra level to stuff. Because I know we want to do a ton of interactable things, but there's so much other stuff we're always working on that it's just cool to see it all like work in that way. Yeah, it's also polished. You do some good work, man.
These are actually really nice tiles. I actually really like these.
Yeah, I saw them. I was like, hey, this is a good idea.
Yeah, they're nice.
Yeah. The one thing I realized was like for villages and so on, we have all the buildings, but we don't have the palisades surrounding them and stuff.
Oh, the wooden things.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
okay.
same thing for like watchtowers and so on.
Oh no.
It works.
Oh, I wonder if my assets are downloaded yet.
Mhm.
Watch this.
Oh, are you downloading the modular building stuff?
Ow, that's my chair. I just headbutted my chair.
Do it again, do it again.
Do it again.
Is it where you point it or?
Unity?
So what's next week?
Next week, we haven't quite decided yet, but quite frankly, it's probably going to fall more under actually creating perhaps a dungeon and having full setup encounters and stuff ahead of time and doing more GM-based stuff, but we'll see. If there's anything anyone wants to suggest, and we're more than open to it. Like, if there's any questions with stuff or things you'd like us to go more into detail on.
Okay, so I'll be the kind of thing.
Yeah. Again, you know, these are to help like the community, so we are more than available to flex a schedule, as it were, on what we're doing. So.
I mean, we could probably ask around like on the make an announcements like what days is best for everyone or
What do you guess?
Yeah. I think next week we might skip on one simply because of the time of year. It's like this one, because obviously it's leading up to Christmas. It's already quieter. I mean, we still have a fair few, but it's quieter than
Yeah,
ever.
I'm not going nowhere there, so I'm just gonna be in Neos for Christmas.
Ah.
I just want to have something where they're all in when I need.
No family visit this year, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was gonna ask. You should have just used that table over there, but you know.
When you just
Yeah. I would have used that table, but there's no tile creator on it, and it was forgotten. It needs to be brought up to be the same like level as that table as well. So it's just the minuscule effort that was required was 5 minutes before we were starting stream. So we just decided, we'll handle it with the tables we have, which has been fine.
And I was already stressing out as it is.
Yeah, Chris had to come in last second and fix up a major issue with the creator. Because everything else worked perfectly, and then I started testing out the tile sets and realizing, oh, they're teleporting around. So
teleporting, a feature.
It's a feature. Can't use any tiles made.
Kingdom now. Protect me.
Why not?
Oh, welcome, VR Exist.
Hi.
Hey, welcome.
I was seeing that here is a lot going on, so I decided to take a look. But I will change my appearance to suit this place of roleplay awesomeness.
Awesome, thank you. Choose whatever appearance you prefer.
She failed. I win.
Yeah, we're actually we're just going through a GameMaster training event that we run weekly. So we're teaching people how to use our systems for running their own games at the moment. So this one's been on creating custom content and their own tile sets for use with it, more so than playing.
It would be cool to make some kind of I don't know, maybe an inventory or some kind of a backpack pouch. So it would be like the inventory for the players.
Yeah, we've thought about that. So we've got our character sheets that we're doing, but we also want an inventory system for like weapons and so on. So you'll be able to slot in a card for the weapon, and you can pull out the card, and then you get the model of the weapon instead with all the card values assigned. So like all interlinking stuff.
Yeah, that would be cool. So
yeah,
you know, you can just like. Okay, I'm choosing the freaking shotgun.
Ooh, yummy Christmas.
Yep. It'd be really cool.
You're on the naughty list.
So you're doing the sci-fi scenario.
Exactly.
Oh no!
I actually did that power glove for my own avatar.
What the hell?
What
Chris broke
what is this?
Oh, you
that's
did
his power source.
So does my appearance suit the Game Master's training?
You're a Hun Raider, yes, definitely.
There we go.
You're suited for fantasy or low fantasy medieval, yes.
Oh no.
It's from Crusader Kings 2.
Is it really? It's from Crusader Kings 2?
Yeah.
Why does it look so... Do they really look that low poly in Crusader Kings 2? Oh my god. Oh, is it one of the models that are on the map? Like the campaign maps? Yeah.
Maybe it's U4, maybe it's U4. But I really would like to, like, somehow
Protect my kingdom.
be able to read the new character creator from Crusader Kings 3.
Yeah.
Make avatars in here with that.
That would be so cool. Yeah.
Probably if I write it on the Discord, there will be somebody being able to do that.
That's funny.
Yeah, maybe someone will be able to work it out at some point. It'd be awesome. I think we were just winding down a bit, actually. So we've had people making a little outpost out of our wooden palisades and so on after creating the tiles.
Sorry, you're like
live role-playing things?
A lot, yeah, so...
Knights and behaving as knights or something?
Yeah, so we do have some stuff around to facilitate that. So the idea with the tavern is it's meant to mainly be like a social community place, but our dream for it was always to have people a bit more in character, so they'll either go grab a wizard hat or a knight hat off of the rack and their weapon of choice. We want to add a dueling system in here too and all sorts, so there's a fair few things we want to do with the tavern. In terms of like full LARP events, we know there's actually a roleplay group within NEOS that do that. So being able to facilitate that kind of stuff would be awesome. I know they already make their own maps and so on, so they have their own extensive stuff for that. So.
I think it's enough when you like make an event. Today is like medieval night. Yeah, everybody
comes on in and yeah. It could be cool to do some LARP-based stuff in there. Yeah, definitely.
Oh my goodness.
It'd be awesome. Thank you.
That was the power glove.
Ooh.
Your system also would suit like a tabletop miniature game?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just talking earlier about this, actually. So for something like Warhammer 40k and its measurements, it would work perfectly with it. Yeah, absolutely. So you just have to assign the value of the spaces to the squares themselves. I suppose you'd have to use the line tool to measure out the distance perfectly, so you can get to, 43 feet or whatever. But otherwise, yeah, it's suited perfectly for it with snapping. So any board game in general, to be honest, or tabletop game will work with it. You just will obviously need to provide your own sheets and so on for that. Or if it uses custom dice, you'll obviously need the custom dice. So stuff like the Fantasy Flight systems do need customized dice, which would need to be made. But otherwise, yeah, anything that uses standard dice systems, it will work perfectly.
Imperium in character.
Yeah, but
yep. It would be really cool to see like a 40k or Warhammer Fantasy community get involved on here and bring in all their models and build out environments and battlefields. Like, yeah.
Whatever paradox game where the diplomacy happens in here, but I need to find 8 other weird people.
That would be pretty cool. Again, yeah.
And VR,
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Adorable.
I only saw the charging stuff on the index.
This is a cool tile set.
What?
Yeah.
He modeled them all himself.
Really? Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Do you know Heroescape?
Heroescape. The name is really familiar. Explain it to me. It's probably been a couple of years.
It was a very big box game in the 80s, but I think now Hasbro owns the IP. Hasbro are one of the big ones, which was like hex based. And you could snap the hexes with each other and you could stack them on each other.
That's where yeah. So that kind of stuff would actually it would work here. So we spoke previously to someone who was interested in bringing over some board games, actually, and he mentioned about having a hex-based system in the future, what we want to do. But right now, for our actual config for the table, we can change it so it'll work for hex snapping, and we'll just change it.
Actually, we have in the Create a Jam, like there was one board game Create a Jam.
Oh, I know, there was the hex tiles that snap. Yeah.
System where you can like assemble with each other.
Yeah.
With the idea of Heroescape or some games like this, where you can make like easy miniature war games like Heroescape, because essentially you have you don't have to measure anything or something. But you have like these spaces, but you have all 3 dimensions because you have them in Heroescape. And then like when the archers, for every hero that are up from the others, the archer shoots one more.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think it's very easy to work that stuff out and so on as well within NEOS and to measure it out. Yeah. I think what we're doing is like more, it's more akin to traditional roleplay and grid-based systems, but doing simplistic hex stuff is definitely possible too. So really the only thing stopping people from playing board games traditionally within here is having the actual board games in. That's not really something myself and Chris are going to do for legal reasons, of course, and it's not something we can do without facing major copyright breaches. But if some fans want to play stuff and bring stuff in, that's fine. Yeah, if you made all the assets yourself and you created your own rule variation on it and named it, Neoscape or something instead, then absolutely, yeah. That would be a fully legal way.
Or we find a board game company that is okay with it and says, hey, we want to be a modern board game.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, people have made Uno within Neos, and I'm confused onto the legality of that. So I think unofficial adaptations are fine, but obviously for commercial gain, it's not okay. So myself and Chris will never be able to touch anything like that because what we're doing is for commercial purposes as well, in the long run. So it's not something we can exactly do. But for those who'd be interested in bringing that kind of stuff in, that's absolutely fine and cool. In fact, I'd love to see that kind of stuff in here. Someone at the door there. Who's this? Sorry. That's Redren.
And ideally we get a company like Fantasy Flight saying, yeah, okay, we're in it, here's some budget.
Oh, I would love to see like Imperial Assault and so on, and yeah. That stuff's awesome.
Yeah, but there is a licensing problem because Disney, you know, because it's Star Wars and they even have to pay to Disney.
Yeah.
So probably that can only work with an IP that is directly owned by some boarding company.
Mm-hmm.
The fucking zero G.
That's not zero G. I don't know what that's called.
And you like it? VR access?
You didn't see anything.
Also, hi.
And hi.
Hi.
Nice to see you again. Long time.
Oh, how's it going, Chris?
It's going good.
It's good, no?
Issue in the logics that I made to make it actually work.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I'm underneath the table, if I get this on here, it will just have to hit no matter what, even if I'm over there.
Oh.
Yeah,
That'd be
I
cool.
know why, it's just the ordering of the...
Not the voice.
Did you say Twilight Imperium?
Oh, yes, I'm looking for it now.
That's the...
I can hear in your voice.
Oh, shit.
You might want to... Oh. Server's struggling a bit, I think. Let me have a look at the... Oh. That might be why the server's struggling, Chris. Have you seen the user count? Okay.
Yeah, I was playing the...
It's okay, Chris. It's okay.
Yellow guys.
Look at your hat. Nice hat.
I know. Where'd you get it?
Yay! Spider kitty
Awesome.
Spider kitty
Right. Well, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to finish up the stream here because we've gone over stuff and we can continue, hanging out and going over stuff in here if we want. But for stream references and for the VOD's purpose itself, it covers everything for tile creation. And I think if people want to reference that, that's fine until the advanced tutorial's out. So let's go ahead and just finish this up real quick. Hi everyone, it's Tomo here, ending the stream. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Keep on delving.
It'd be nice to have a token.
Roll the credits.
Roll credits. We don't have credits. Oh no.
You're trying to cram all this crap